1, 2, 1, 2.
Well, I find the angle's quite good like that as well, so you can see the face. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, these Rogue things are good, man, but I look at Rogan, and the ones he's got, the boom arms, man, they go everywhere.
Yeah.
They're double-bladed.
Nice.
Yeah, bloody great.
Good work if you can get it.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, actually, that's one thing I think, one of the next things I'll invest in my studio is some really full-on mic stands. Because all of my mics
don't
got
talk to me
dings
about
in
mic
them
stands. They suck so
because
badly.
the number of times you just got it in the wrong space, it just goes...
Yeah, and they're all made of... Even the expensive ones you get from, say, Hayworth, not knocking them, but it's very difficult to get a good, stainless steel solid mic stand.
Yeah, they're old vintage ones. They're hard.
Yeah.
They're hard to find. I've got a couple, but they're all in some sort of state of disrepair. I was just checking where the diaphragm was.
Yeah. I think it says where the Audio Technicas AT. Yeah. Nice microphones if you want to.
They're not bad. It's nice and transparent.
Yeah. Well, the issue, I suppose, we should probably go S7.
SM7s.
Yeah, no, the S7s, the short ones.
The D7, like the little stumpy one with the grill on it.
No, the one Rogan uses. It's a big fat one. I think it's just called an S7, man, a short S7, and it's a dynamic microphone.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, because these ones, the SM7's cool, but these ones, they kind of die. So if you pull like that, you don't. Whereas these, if it's noisy outside or anything, everything just comes in.
I got a Coles 4140. Like it's the old broadcast mic that had the screen that goes over that. Yeah. And they're special noise cancelling ones. They're dynamic, but they were one of the first noise cancelling mics.
Wow, really?
I got way more microphones than I could possibly use.
I got to come down.
I just love them. Yeah, you'd have to.
That's actually one of the reasons why I texted and I said, maybe we could do it at your studio. Because I love going to other people's studios. It's like kid in the candy shop. What do you got there? And especially because I'm not new to it. But I'm not well educated, so I've been recording myself for years and everything.
Yeah.
And, but there's so much to learn. And if you're trying to read books and do other things and have kids, how the hell do you... That's why people, especially when you're starting to play music, it's when you're young. That's when you need to get into it. You can get into it older, but when you're young is when you have time.
Yeah.
And it's a time-consuming thing.
Oh, yeah, I know. I've been doing it for producing I've been doing it for years. It's really funny, actually. The first guy that ever gave me a Fostex 4-track, his old, 60s Telecaster, and his effects pedals I would have been in about year 8, I reckon.
Yeah.
And he's just come back to me and we're doing lessons now. And he's written all these great songs, and so I'm recording him now, and he's hasn't played.
Yeah,
nearly chucked out a whole bunch of his stuff because he wasn't playing and he was frustrated.
Oh, that's amazing.
But he played this song today, and I was just like, wow, that is a great pop song. It sounded like sort of Dom Mariachi or UMI or something. It had this Oz rock thing.
Oh, that's bloody awesome.
Yeah, no.
So he gave you the stuff?
Yeah. No, he just lent it to me. I had it for a couple of months. It was the first time I ever mucked around on a 4-track. And,
it's magic when you do, isn't it? You actually created something, and and being able to overdub.
Yeah.
Wow. And the whole world opens up. So, and now it's gotten so kind of ubiquitous, and there's so many tracks that you actually, I think, when you're doing recording, and you need to limit yourself. You have to, otherwise you got 300 tracks going. You need to kind of pare it back and worry about the song, because you can do so much stuff. And
they're different things.
Yeah.
Totally different things.
Yeah, because I'm learning mixing, and there's so much stuff on YouTube. The resources are out there for anything, isn't it? If you want to do anything in your life now and you have access to a computer and the internet, you can do anything, man. It's only your commitment to it. If I want to become a plumber, everything's there, man. I can learn everything about it.
Yeah.
I won't be as good, but
actually, that's the problem. It's
that toilet you used out there was a YouTube toilet.
Wow. Well,
yeah.
Seemed to work.
Although the first time we used it, we had Jeff David in here. Jeff, I hope you're going well, mate. And we came out of the studio, and the whole place was just full of water.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we should. We're back. That was our little introduction. We got Mr. Paul Greene.
Hi.
Welcome, Paul. And that's our first post-COVID guest.
Post-lockdown.
Post-lockdown, for people looking, for our overseas fans, it's been pretty rough here in Australia, man. They've, love it or hate it, they've really gone for it and just locked you down, man.
I reckon. I'm just south of here. I'm in the Shoalhaven, but I reckon we had one of the best LGAs in the world. So, it was actually pretty good.
Oh, you did, yeah.
Going to a beach and not having anyone there. It's like,
because you guys were just south of Sydney for people, and so it was basically the south coast is where all Sydney siders go to the great beaches and all that type of thing.
Yeah, so usually, not all the time, but like a lot of the time, there's a lot of visitors, tourists. And we love the tourists because it's it creates a lot of work and businesses do well out of it. But it was pretty cool to be able to go, just on bushwalks and go to the beach and just have the place to yourself. It's a pretty sexy LGA to be locked down in, really.
Well, yeah.
How bad could it be?
How bad is it?
Yeah.
My daughter was, I haven't watched it yet, but she was telling me about this thing on Netflix or on Amazon, saying it's a Attenborough thing about the year the world changed, it's called. And it starts off, and it's these people looking up at the Himalayas, and they live in India, and they have never seen the Himalayas. But after a couple of months of COVID and lockdowns, it cleared. Oh. And this first time, even old people were actually looking up. First time they've ever seen the Himalayas, man.
Wow.
And they're right there. So
I think there's a lot of people in Nowra a bit like that. They're living in Nowra and never actually been to Jervis Bay, which is like 20 minutes away.
Man, I grew up in New Zealand, and when we moved to Auckland. And I remember one day we did this big trip, and let's go to a different town and that. We went to Hamilton, which is an hour away. Yeah. And it was a big fucking deal to us, to head down to Hamilton. It was and it's just ridiculous. You come to Australia, and going down to Melbourne to visit my brother is 9-10 hours or something. And it doesn't even bother me,
You just do it, yeah.
Well, you leave early in the morning, that's what I think. You leave 4, and you get there by lunchtime or just after. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a really Australian thing, just being willing to travel for days and days.
Well, you have to, don't you?
Yeah. But I remember being in places in the north of England where there were towns that were sort of 10 minutes apart, and they had different accents. Yeah. Because this town never went to this town.
Never went to that town,
but then you're also, there's other parts of Europe where you can, I've been for, in France or in Switzerland, and I went for a jog and ended up in France and then jogged back to my hotel.
That's wild. What is this whole statehood and country thing?
Yeah, this big island we're on, man.
I worked with this geezer once, and he was into not paragliding, but kind of. Yeah, I suppose it's paragliding. It's like a hang glider, but it's a paraglider, yeah. And he did it in Switzerland, and he did that, and he had a topographical map, if that's the right word, and he would fly around all these countries, man. And a whole day he'd go to Germany and all that, and just bouncing off the mountains, man.
Yeah. I wonder how they do. They must be a bit more relaxed about landing permits and things like that.
I don't think he landed.
Oh, I just kept going.
No, I just kept on going. Oh, I'm in France now. Well,
I reckon it's weird in Australia. We don't have any language borders. One of the few places in the world where there's no border to us that speaks a different language.
Whereas originally there was 200 or 300 or maybe 400 different language borders.
Yeah, true. There still is. Yeah,
and so that's
good point.
It is. Well, yeah. Well, Papua New Guinea's the same. You look at all those valleys in Papua New Guinea, and they just all had a different language because you just didn't mingle, and that shows something about England, I suppose, with those different dialects. If we didn't have the technology that connected us, there'd probably be different languages over a while. I was listening to a speech by Chomsky, the linguist, and he was saying a national language like French, it was actually brought in under guns and stuff. There was no national French language. It was even Italy, there's 4 or 5 different dialects, or German, high and low German. Well, every town had basically their own dialect. And so once the kings went or decided to make a state, they needed a language.
They nationalised
nationalised language. And that,
it's like the Chinese doing Mandarin when they had to.
Absolutely. Well, they've got Mandarin and Cantonese, but now they've got a new one in China where it's almost like Esperanto, where they're trying to get everyone at school will get taught the local dialect, but they'll get taught this thing as well, so they can all talk to each other.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know. On the one in what about the one at the king in Spain who had a lisp, and so he kind of decreed that everybody had to speak like this.
No way, is that what happened?
Everybody has to say they're from Barcelona.
But yeah, Barcelona got to roll it. That's I don't know. Is that for real? Is it?
I've been, like you said, who's got time to read? Like I don't read much, but I do listen a lot. So.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. But
Yeah, I wonder if the reading compared to listening, whether it goes in and stays longer.
I think it depends. I think some people can look and can use their eyes and look at something and it stays there, and other people need to hear it. And I'm definitely one of those people. If I've heard something, I tend to remember it. But if I've read something, I have to read it like 4 or 5 times for it to sink in.
Well, I'm probably the same. Actually, and that's why I go more for audio books, as long as it's got a good narrator. Which is
I haven't gone there yet. There's too much good music to listen to if I've got time.
There is, man. Although even with the music, we have to. We're just wagging now at the moment. But even with the music, I'll find if you go through my Spotify list, I'm living in the 70s still, and the 60s, and it's a bit annoying. And 80s, a bit of 80s and stuff. But there is a place for a good DJ in Spotify or something. Like just so.
Oh yeah.
To expose you.
How old are your kids? What's your?
My oldest, Kai, he's going to be 21 next year, man. And then we've got Amara, 16, and then 8 and 3.
Yeah, right. Well, my 17-year-old daughter, I've found she's introduced me to more music in the last few years.
Yep.
But then which has been great. But I also get great pride when I walk past the room and she's listening to Nirvana or Jeff Buckley or something that I've sort of introduced her to that she's going, it's cool.
No, you're absolutely right there. Yeah, my son introduced me to, when I drive him home and stuff like that, and he grabs my phone and he puts some stuff on, and man, there's a scene happening. It's not quite rock and roll. Like they're not like Keith Moon. These kids, they're more technically really good at their instruments. What he plays, these guys can play, and they know what they're doing. Almost, when I was growing up playing music and that, I just want to be Angus Young or something like that, like
just loutish. What sort of music? I just want to be loutish.
It was more of an attitude, wasn't it? I'm a little bit concerned with the younger generation that. Well, not concerned. There is a change going. I think when the iPhone came out, they all became super connected, and they've all got cameras, So when if there was cameras around when I was 16, man, like I would be in big trouble, Like I was a fucking.
We'd be different people, that's for sure.
We would be. We would have mellowed ourselves out. We wouldn't have put up with that.
And I would have had to look at myself a lot.
I remember once there was a party back in might have been 98 or something like that, and someone did have a video camera, and it was a big night, one of those big nights.
Yeah.
And they said a couple of days later, "Oh man, you were wild. Do you want to see the footage?" And I just died. I'm like, "No way. Where is it?" I wanted to destroy it. And these poor kids, they're not poor, but they have a different culture now. But having said that, it makes them. They are more connected, man. My daughters, they're all incredibly wise people, but I really, you would hope that the next generation grows up with more knowledge. Like that's what you want. Like our parents tried, would have tried their best to do that for us, and them being like the first generation really to come through university. Like that was a pretty new thing, really. But then it's almost the first and the last, almost, So
the only,
Whitlam came along,
boomers.
Same as New Zealand, and
right.
After World War II happened right across the West, and then for some reason everyone went to university because you didn't have to pay for it and you could study what you wanted. And then suddenly our economy boomed and our arts boomed. The Beatles came along, everything was great. And then someone said, "No, make them pay for it."
Yeah,
and then everything
we can make money out of this.
We can make money out of this, and it was almost like it was a plan.
Another one, yeah. No, I think I'm really proud of my daughters. They're wise. I think maybe the fact that they're so much available to them, so much information, they're exposed to more than they probably should be at a really young age.
Yeah.
Which is in a way it's not good, but
they don't have to lose their innocence because of it.
I think it's made them kind of a bit more aware and a bit more worldly, even. Just being aware of they're not sheltered, put it that way.
Yeah,
they know what's going on, and they've dealt with it, and they're not silly, so they stay out of trouble, which is good.
It's funny. I feel the same with my older ones as well. Like I've actually got a lot of hope I'm like,
Yeah,
man,
me too.
these people are right. You know, they've got good attitudes. They're like, that is not into putting other people down at all. You know, like, which is a bit weird for the, for us Generation Y or whatever.
It's that Facebook like thing. You
Yes,
can, you can like things.
You can, yeah.
I reckon that's caused an entire shift where people are like, it's okay to like something, but if someone does something that you don't like, you're not allowed to say anything.
Yeah.
Like there's retaliation if you kind of go, hey, that was a bit shit. You can,
Wow.
I don't like, and then there's this whole like, you were angry at me. I was like, no, I was just expressing to you that what you did wasn't okay. And I'm not angry. I think that was a bit shit.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
but isn't that called normal straight talk though? Like, so straight talk's gone.
That's the thing that's dissipating. Yeah, you're allowed to approve things, but you're not allowed to disapprove.
Yeah, I think Dave Chappelle's finding that out at the moment, isn't he? You know. Yeah. Well, I was funny, man. You should bring that up. I was looking. Before you arrived, I was listening to this classical guitarist. So I've decided to go back and do my grades, you know. And
oh wow, good year.
Yeah, and I'm on my final one, you know. So it's really exciting. I've got these cool pieces to learn, and there's this girl from Perth. She's a woman now, and her name's what's her name? Not Sharon Jones, Stephanie Jones. And oh my God, she's like the bastard love child of Julian Bream and John Williams. She's like the Terminator, but with passion. She's just a phenomenal guitarist, man. And she's got this piece that I'm never going to be able to play. You know, I might be able to bullshit, but she's almost the best classical guitarist in the world. You know, I hate to say it, but she is fucking amazing, man. She's got chops, and she's got like 90,000 views on this one thing, and there's like 80,000 likes, and there's like 8,000 dislikes. And there's just what type of classical interested person would watch a performance of perfection
and then dislike it?
And that many of them, like and there's no comments disliking it. Like there's nothing.
Troll, is that what it is?
I think it's what they say, man. Don't feed the trolls. But it's my mate, my guitar teacher actually, Dave. He put something up, and it was how to tune your guitar, and it's a little clip, and it's a perfect instruction on how to tune your guitar. That's the thing, and it's got 10,000 dislikes.
What, you like the guitar out of tune, do you?
So,
wow, how many likes does it have?
Oh, it's got about 100,000 or something like that.
Oh, okay, right. Yeah,
but percentage-wise, but still,
economy of scale.
Having said that, we don't know if they're real or not, do we? Because
that's the thing.
These corporations, they, Facebook got caught out actually trying to manipulate Australian teenage girls, and it bloody worked. And they made them depressed by showing them things that depressed them and stuff. So.
Well, that's been talked about with elections and the whole.
Oh yeah.
The whole democracy itself has been at the mercy of that.
But
so I think tuning guitars.
That's right.
We're delving into the the culture of approval and disapproval here, aren't we?
Yeah. Let's start. Paul, you're a local boy.
We hadn't? I thought we'd already started.
Yeah, we've started, but let's tell people. Find out a thing or two about you. So I know a thing or two, but I don't know where you grew up, man. Were you born down South Coast?
I moved down the South Coast when I was very young. So my very early childhood memories are in Sydney, around Cheltenham Station near Beecroft.
Sounds very English, doesn't it?
It does, yes. But we're right on the national park, so I pretty much spent so Lane Cove National Park. So I spent my whole early childhood playing around in creeks there, and then moved down the South Coast when I was very young. So went to preschool down there, and I went to primary school down there, and Shoalhaven High down in Nowra. And so my folks bought a little block out of Falls Creek. And
nice.
I got to kind of grow up in a rural setting, not far from the beach. It's pretty idyllic,
doesn't it?
Yeah, I could ride my BMX into Huskisson and on the weekend.
Did you have a gang?
I think
bandits. I think.
We had a few, but then most of my friends had horses. So
shit, really?
Yeah, so but then I used to. But then the bike didn't go as well as the horses when you went off road. So I ended up just walking or running. But
that's why nature didn't design horses with wheels, did they?
Yeah, that's right. That's why they don't wear roller skates too.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe blades. Put a horse on blades. And for people that don't know, you had a really exceptional career as an athlete. And when did you know you could run? Were you always running? Was you trying to chase your mates on the horse? Or?
Yeah, there was a bit of that. But I don't know. I did really badly in my first ever school sports. So when I was in Sydney, I actually went to a Rudolf Steiner school, and they don't believe in sport competitions. So that was up until about fourth class. And then fifth class, I went to the public school down the south coast, and they had this school sports carnival. And there was only like 30 kids there.
Yeah.
And so they put all the older boys in one race, and I got last. And I was really upset by it. I got teased, and I came home and went.
Did you?
And I was like, I got last in the race, and I was really disappointed. I wanted to do well. And my dad's an athlete. My dad, he was a decathlete. He ran for Sydney Uni.
Oh wow!
And he went in the Olympic trials. I think it was when was it? 68 in Mexico. I think he went in for the trials. My grandfather was a runner. He was an Australian record holder for the 400 metre hurdles and competed in the Empire Games.
Wow!
In 38.
Yeah, that was before the Commonwealth Games.
Yeah, before it was Commonwealth Games. So so the Olympics was always a pretty big deal in my family. It was always around, and it was always, we all sat and watched, and it was like really revered about this. It was this really magical global sporting celebration.
And it was, and it kind of is. I grew a bit jaded with it, but this last one in Japan, I really dug it. You know, I thought it was all right. I thought there was a lot of sportsmanship come back into it, which I thought was quite cool.
You leave your cynicism at the door, it can still be like, there is still a really lovely element to that.
Yeah.
Kind of the competition, but as much, the camaraderie and the connection of people from completely different walks of life and completely different economies, all kind of on the same playing field. And I think that is just a really great way for human beings to connect.
Yeah,
and and not just to do it on this field, but for people to witness that. And so, my country or my culture, if you like, or put it against someone else, and from a completely different part of the world where they've got no idea. You've got no idea what it's like growing up in Russia or China or somewhere. And
for sure.
They've got them. They're at this. Seeing that is pretty amazing. I think still. So
you lost your first amateur race, let's say, at school.
To school, yeah. And so my dad said, "Oh, well, let's just do some training." So we started running down the side of my dad's property. So we just run down the driveway. It was probably about 120 metres, and we did it like twice a week. Yeah. And then the next year I came out and I made it to state, and so I won the school sports, and then I won the zone, and I won the regional.
Wow.
And I got second or third, I think, in a regional. I can't remember now.
Yeah.
But I made it to state, and then I got like last in my heat at state in like sixth class.
100 or 200?
I think that was 200 metres. Back then. And then and my dad was like, "Oh, well, let's train some more. Like, you've done this much. Like, let's train 3 days a week, and let's do it a little bit more." So I did, and then the next year I think I made it to nationals, and I might have won the national. Like, I was like under 14 or under something like that, like under 14.
Wow! So you had a talent. How'd that feel? So the moment that I fell in love with it and went, okay, I'm going to do this, was in year 9. So I was 14. I got picked to go on a trip to compete in New Caledonia. So it was a New South Wales team. Oh wow! Yeah.
And we got to compete in the specific games, and there was like a Japanese team. I think there was a few. It was like an Asia Pacific Games kind of thing. And I got to go away for 2 weeks with a whole bunch of kids at my age and a bit older, and a couple of coaches, and got travelling. And I just had the best time. I just fell in love with it there. And I took my guitar. And so, because I just, I always had my guitar and was always like just trying to work out how to play songs, and it was a great combination of just being around a whole bunch of kids. We were all away from home. A lot of us was the first time, and being in another country and being there without my parents as well.
But what age was that?
I was 14.
14,
and then the same year I got to go to China. I was one of the first sporting delegates ever to be asked into the motherland, and that just blew my mind. That was the time. That was the moment I realised that what I thought was normal was only my version of normal, and that there was a whole big world out there that was completely different to my reality, and people living completely different lives with completely different set of kind of rules and what was important to them and what mattered. And
especially
really
China back that what was that in the 90s?
It was 88.
88. So they had just or joined opened up or
It was
something?
I was one of the first sporting delegations.
What was it like there? Were they, because they were poorer than like the poorest African country back
Yeah,
in the
it
day.
was really poor, and there was no cars. Everyone was on bikes. So we went to Tiananmen Square. I saw Mao Zedong's tomb. I went to the Forbidden City. We were like taken through as a delegate, like as a foreign delegation.
That's fantastic.
And I just saw things
isn't
on that trip that just absolutely blew my mind. And it wasn't like I felt so lucky. I don't think I realised. I just knew I wanted more because, it wasn't like I was going on a holiday on a Kentucky tour or anything. I actually got to see some stuff that was kind of really confronting and just blew my mind and just made me kind of go, this is like how amazing, there's so much to learn. And I had not that. And then it was just sort of, the camaraderie I made with my teammates.
And you've got a key to that world as well through your talent.
That's it. And so from then on, I was just like, right, if this means I can get on trips to go overseas, then
I'm into
it. And so I did it. And and I did that. Like I was so lucky from high school. I did really badly in my HSC because I was hardly there. I was away for like 2 months for the World Junior Games, and we went to Bulgaria and competed in Plovdiv, which is another really poor country that just was like I never would have gone to. But experiencing what the black market was over there, because they had these like two types of currency. There's like the foreigner currency, and then there's the local currency. As a lot of the communist countries did in that time. And so then people trying to buy the foreigner money so they could buy luxury goods. And things like chocolate was like.
Did they try and buy your jeans and that? I've heard.
I did have that actually. I had someone. I was carrying my dad's old Pentax 35mm camera, the 35 film, and when I was in China, and this guy came out. I always sort of went off from the main road and ducked down the back streets just to see what was going on. And I had this guy come out with this jade statue, which was probably like the most valuable thing in his family, and he wanted to trade it for my camera. And I'm an idiot. It was probably worth thousands of dollars. I had no idea what it was, though. And I was like, Dad will kill me.
Oh, no.
I probably could have bought 20 of them. But anyway, just little things like that. It just kind of got me hooked. It started me really thinking about just things from different perspectives, because I was seeing them from different perspectives. And I reckon that's probably what really started my songwriting. I think that was... I started kind of going, I'm allowed to do this, I wasn't really encouraged, but I just started doing it just to tell my story. So
we got this athletics thing, which kicked off when you were young. And where did the music thing come from? Like, did your parents play guitar? Or?
My grandma was a pianist. That was pretty much all she did. But to put a twist on it, my dad grew up in Fiji, so she's Fijian, parts Fijian and parts Samoan. She grew up in Suva, so she was a piano player in a band and played clubs in Suva. That was her thing.
Okay,
but this is Suva in the 40s and in 50s. This is frontier country.
It would have been. Did they have proper roads and things back then?
Probably not.
Yeah,
probably. And so. I think when I started sort of turning to music, it was wasn't really encouraged by my folks, because I think my dad's memory of growing up with a mum as a muso, and she was, and his dad passed away when he was very young, so she was a single mum working as a muso with 2 kids, and like
in Fiji,
that's a tough gig, in the 40s, and early 50s, and that would have been a really tough gig. So so I feel like my dad's one of the best listeners that I know. He's an incredible ear for music and introduced me to so much great music, and was always really passionate about it. I don't think he wanted to play an instrument. He probably didn't actually get a choice. But he's got an incredible ear, and his enthusiasm and his kind of the way he listened to music, I think, was really infectious for me. That he'd listen to Joe Cocker and the Beatles, and he'd listen to he'd come back. He'd find things that weren't sort of Randy Newman and James Taylor and stuff like that, and he'd like listen to this. This is really, really exciting stuff. But then it was my mum that eventually got me guitar lessons when I was about 12, about the same time I started running, actually. So.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
in tandem. Yeah, good one, Mum.
Yeah.
I started playing guitar when I was about the same age, 13. Man, it's so lucky that we stuck with it. Because it's a friend for life, man. And
isn't it?
And your body, you get older in your body and things like that, and you can't do the things you used to. But Yeah, so far playing guitar, man, you can keep going all the way. Like Julian Bream was still playing in his 80s.
Oh, totally.
You know.
No, I'm feeling that. I'm teaching now, teaching kids. It's funny. I'm teaching kids and I'm coaching athletics now. So I must be grown up because I'm.
When
I
did
don't
that
feel
happen?
it. I don't feel like it. But
I kept waiting for that to happen as well. Like I'm 46 now.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I didn't grow up. I could have grown up in my 30s. You know, I had responsibilities and things like that, but I still wear flares and things like, you know, I didn't
wear silly hats.
and silly hats and shit like that, you know, and you got to. I think a lot of people, maybe they get into a later age and then they go a bit quirky. Like, go quirky from the beginning, man.
I reckon.
You know, like just,
I reckon it's always the weird kids that got teased in year 7 that were the cool kids in year 12.
yeah.
And then it was always the weird kids in year 12 that were the cool kids at the 10-year reunion.
Yeah.
The ones that kind of dropped out and disappeared and they've come back and they're like, you know, CEO of some mega corporation or just come up with this great idea and, you know,
well,
have
that's
great
right.
lives. And yeah, but it's, they reckon, someone told me if you're not grown up by 50, you don't have to be. So I got just under 2 years and I'm home.
You'll be right. Yeah, my brother turns 50 next year. It used to be so. I remember when I was like, as we'll talk about. I remember when I was a kitchen hand, and my chef he was turning 30. Greg Butcher. Hey, Greg, if you're watching, and he was so old. Oh my God!
30 seems so old.
It was ridiculous.
What, 14?
Yeah, I was 14 or 15. Yeah, I was 14, man. You know,
Yeah.
and I just turned 30, and it was. And I don't know, man, because it's not that old. It's not old at all, you know. And
It just seems it when you're that age. But I'm quite good friends with a lot of my daughter's friends, and I don't know. I feel like I remember what it was like. Still, it feels kind of close to me. Still being a teenager, and also just the way you kind of saw the world and how you wanted to kind of fit in, and how the things that sort of mattered at that time, like, especially around sort of, you know, your last years of high school, and how it was really important to have something that was yours, but also really important to be kind of accepted and fit in and know where you stand at least.
Yeah, and especially because your experience of the world is 100%, but it's only like probably 10% of what you are going to experience. So it seems like everything, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, if you get embarrassed at school, like when we were there, it was the end of the world. But now these poor bloody kids, they get embarrassed. It's on camera, man, and they got to deal with this shit for the rest of their lives.
Also, that thing too, the friendships as well, and the communication happens like from the minute they wake up to the minute they go to bed. So because they're answering messages all the time, and there's all the group chats, and someone said this, and someone posted a photo. Like everyone's still. That's like I'm pretty glad I had that time at home after school, and I got to muck around with, you know, setting fire to things and
for sure,
and,
you know,
and playing fiddling on 4-tracks and you know, things like that I.
And that's and playing like that. That's where you get your skills, isn't it? You know, that's one thing about the technology and the whole World Wide Web. It's just a bit. I jumped on this. It's called not Soundgarden, Radio Garden, and it's an app.
How good's that? I know that
one. Yeah, it's so good, and you can jump around different radio stations in Russia, and they got some chanting and everywhere. But whenever I jump onto a Western station, it's always like Shania Twain or something. It's like
mainstream.
We've become so homogenized, you know, and I'm really scared that Radio Garden is going to become Shania Twain or some shit in the future, you know, like this homogenization. Like I'm full cream now. I don't muck around in my coffee. Like I go butter or cream, and there's something you don't want to. We all need to be integrated. I think we need to live in peace and stuff. But there is something about sticking to a culture and letting it develop in its own way. Where, you know, like I grew up in New Zealand. We had Flying Nun, which is a label from Dunedin.
Yeah,
and it's just jingle jangle nasty shit. But I loved it.
Straight Jacket Fits.
Straight Jacket Fits. You know, the 3Ds, these cats. You know, and it was exclusively New Zealand stuff. You know, but now it kind of wouldn't be, because everyone in the world can access it, which is good. But also everyone can be influenced by it. It's like American hip hop. You know, it's around the world, and you know, Australian hip hop. At least I started they sing with Australian slang and all that, but a lot of them don't. Like country music's classic. Yeah, everyone's singing with American accents, and this homogenization. I think you got to be wary of your own culture. You know, Like Australia's got a culture. It's a young culture, like Australia, but after colonisation or invasion. But it does have a culture, like it's a young one.
Yeah.
But
I think Australia has actually quite a lot.
Yeah.
But people don't see it. It's kind of like, but we're sort of too close to it. But even if you go to different places in Australia still have their different ways of doing things, and like Adelaide's a totally different.
Well, Adelaide, they sound like Kiwis. I remember when I first landed in Adelaide, I went to a pub. It was like 97 or 98. Had a beer and I started chatting to the guy next to me, and he goes, "Oh, you're not Victorian, are you?" They fucking hate Victorians. And I said, "No, I'm a Kiwi." And they said, "Oh, that's all right then, man." I think Melbourne had just stolen the Grand Prix or something, and it was
something sporting. Yeah, it was probably just like an AFL thing.
Yeah,
or a Grand Prix. Yeah, they were not happy about that, were they? And rightly so. I can see why.
It's like the French and the submarines, but
No, I think there's now scenes. So like, although culturally there's like, it's less likely. Maybe that like a region kind of has this own style of music. It still happens in the world. Like there's places in the world that have these little pockets where there's like this a vibe or a scene. Or even look at like I'm just going to Brazil and seeing the music there and what's the not the rumba, but what's the music there? That's the thing. It's just gone from my head at the moment.
Bossa Nova or something like that.
No, I can't remember. It'll come to me in a second. But that was alive and well. And these old guys playing this old style.
It's not samba.
Samba. Yeah, samba. I think was that what I said? I can't remember. Yeah, the samba.
Yeah.
They're just these beautiful old chord progressions and this sort of jazz thing that was like, still seemed to be really identifiable as like...
Fantastic.
As Brazilian. And but I look at my own area and there is a culture there of this... And it comes from sort of individuals of like, some people are like, there's this jammy influence and then there's this sort of reggae thing and then there's this surfer thing. And but mostly it comes through, I reckon it comes through just by the people you sort of hang around. And there might be a couple of different scenes happening in one town and one group sort of all sticks together and then another group, like I know there's a scene in Gerringong and there's a scene in Nowra and there's a scene sort of Ulladulla.
Is there really?
Yeah. And they sort of, a lot of people are doing... everyone sort of knows each other, and so everyone's kind of like checking out what everyone else is doing and going to gigs, and I think it's pretty generally supportive, and everyone wants to sort of, is sort of happy for each other to do well and learn from each other.
That's how you get a scene happening, isn't it? It's like I often talk about. If the Beatles, they didn't happen to come from Liverpool at that time when there was gigs going on where they could go to Hamburg and stuff, they might have, it's like we were talking before about the Nerds, doing well and coming back to their school reunion. But if you look at Bill Gates, he did write a computer program. It was good. Yeah. But IBM actually went to digital analytics in LA first, and they said to this guy, we're going to give you a deal. You can do all our software forever. And but we're not going to pay you a cent for the first year. And this guy said, no, I need to get my lawyers to look at it. And they said, no, we need it signed today. And he didn't sign it. They jumped on a plane. They flew to Seattle. Bill Gates was there. And they said, okay, you're the second choice. Will you sign this? And he signed it. Yeah. So, it's opportunity. It's luck. There's so much luck with it,
right place, right time.
Right place.
Being around the right people. And that's when that's opportunities. Like, that's just having those... And like the guy that didn't sign, maybe he was better off. Like,
maybe he was. And even this, you made it or not. What does that even mean? I think if you're an artist and you're happy with the music you're putting out and you're getting better at it, that's it. As far as I think,
Yeah, I think that's a really important question. And when I do a lot of workshops now. So I'm doing like sort of songwriting workshops. I'm putting on concerts. I'm doing events and. As well as producing albums for people as well, which I love. Like, it's actually the place I'm happiest. And that thing of like, what's your idea of success? I think is a really important question. And I think before you get too far down the track, I think it's really important to kind of go, what is your idea of success? Is it because if it's being famous, that's gonna take you down a path. If it's being liked, that's going to take you down a path. If it's being rich, that's going to take you down a different path altogether. And they're all, there's nothing wrong with wanting to be famous or wanting to be rich
But I always think that should,
wanting to be
as
cool,
an
you
artist,
know?
that should be the second tier. Number one tier is to produce good work, is to be good at what you do. Surely,
That is the first thing, yeah. Actually, and to be honest with you, of all the best musos I've worked with, that's exactly what they're like. They don't really care about anything else, and they just do what they do, and they do it really well.
because you can't. Yeah, there's no, you can't. What happens? It blows up or it doesn't. You can't control that. But I think you can control.
But even if it blows up, you keep doing it anyway. Like
That's right.
That's the thing. It's like I haven't released an album for a while, and the only reason I started doing it is because I thought, I just had a bit of a chance and a bit of an opportunity, and it's like, but when I got to the point, I was lucky enough to make a living out of it. So I was like, I don't want to do anything else. It did come a time where I needed a break and I had to do different things, and I didn't want to do it anymore. So I did different things, and I worked as a chef and I worked as a gardener, but I'm actually back loving music and making music and working with other people and collaborating, and that just feeds my soul.
Building that good soil, that's where it's at.
Sometimes you got to have a break. Yeah, the good soil.
Yeah. Well, we've jumped forward a bit. We're jumping all over the place, which is great. Let's go back. So you won the Nationals. So this is back.
This would have been like 88, 88, something
88,
89.
You travelled around. You've gone to Bulgaria, which is would have been a bloody interesting place.
That was 1990. Yeah, that was
1990.
That was a trip, definitely a trip.
Yeah,
but also earlier that year I'd run in the Commonwealth Games in.
Was it? Okay.
So at 17, at 16 I got picked on the Commonwealth Games team, and then at 17 I ran the 200 metres. I was a reserve for the relay, and they put me on the team.
Was that in New Zealand?
Yeah, that was Auckland.
Yeah, I was there.
Right. Yeah. So was I.
Yeah, that's right. You're more involved than I was, I think.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know what you were doing, but there was plenty of things to do, not just compete. There was like a lot of people working on that thing.
Yeah.
But I lived in the village and ended up running the 200 metres and just lucked it. Well, didn't luck it. I'd been working really hard, but I ended up getting 7th in the final of the 200 metres, and I was a skinny little kid, and I was just totally blown away. Like I hadn't gone in there expecting anything.
Because Jamaica were there and stuff, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. Yeah, it's Jamaica and what are the other countries? Like Kenya,
Canada.
Canada. Canada were there. Everyone but the US, it seemed like. England. Yeah. It was pretty. It was a really amazing experience, and just to be part of that, I think that was another thing that blew my mind. Kind of made me see the world from a totally different perspective.
Yeah.
Getting on that thing. And then so I missed the Olympic team in 92. I actually made the team, kept training.
Okay. Yep.
I got sick, I got injured, and I just didn't. And I had my first kind of serious girlfriend, I think, about that time. And it sort of was a bit of a distraction, I think.
Yeah.
So I got injured and didn't end up making the 92 team in Barcelona. Then I came back to Australia, and I was really disappointed and just felt completely shattered. Like I just felt like a complete failure.
So you went over to Barcelona, and
I went to England and trained with the Olympic team.
Okay,
and I didn't actually make it to Barcelona. My dad had bought tickets to the games, and he went there.
Yeah,
and he had to go, and I wasn't there. And he I think he invited me. He said, "Come down, and I'll do it." And I was just like, "No, I don't." I was devastated. I was just absolutely shattered that I hadn't made it, and I had all this expectation, and I kind of just came home like, with my head was not held high at that point, that's for sure. And I ended up taking a scholarship to University of Southern California, I just wanted a real change. So I left Australia and went and lived in LA, and then I started studying music and playing in a band over there and training. I met a guy over there that was in a dorm near me. His name's Eddie Deering, and we played in a band, and we played all the frat parties, and we played on campus. Yeah. And he was like the first guy that I wrote with, and we were prolific. We wrote like 80 songs or something in the first year we were together, and there was no expectations. No, I didn't really want anything from it, but I just loved it, and I loved that we were making up our own songs. I was playing bass and singing, had a 3-piece band, and I I don't know, it was just a great creative adventure for me, and I was really excited by it. And it's kind of the thing that's.
And there's a scene there in LA in the 90s. That would have been pretty bloody amazing.
Yeah,
wouldn't
that was like Super Unknown had just come out. Soundgarden.
Yeah.
Nevermind came out like the year before I moved over,
Bloody hell.
And there was an amazing scene there. And I actually, I used to go out and see gigs and saw the Chili Peppers play at the Palladium, like in the middle of LA. And
When they were rocking. Was that Blood Sugar Sex?
yeah, well, yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. My band ended up playing at the Whiskey A Go Go.
Oh shit!
And
awesome.
we packed it out. We weren't expecting it. They had this dodgy deal where you had to buy $300 worth of tickets and sell them, and they'd give you a gig.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Did you get a markup on the tickets, or?
Well, you could, I guess, if you wanted to, but they called it pay to play. So and it
Yeah,
was like really
yeah,
frowned
yeah.
upon.
It was a big thing in LA. I just listened to Jewel talk about that on the Rogan podcast.
Yeah, and it was kind of like a dark art of how to get gigs, but we did it, and we actually, like, because we'd played so many frat parties for free.
Yeah.
When everyone heard we were playing at the Whiskey, they were like, "Oh my god, these guys are doing really well!"
Yeah.
And they all came, and like 400 people turned up to our
that's
gig.
brilliant.
And then I had all these. Then I started getting all these phone calls in my little share house in LA. I was living with these Kiwi swimmers actually,
Yeah.
Honey and John Steele. They were
John Steele, that's a hell of a name.
I know, and he looked like the Bondsman too.
Yeah.
They were both legends. They were my best friends, and I went on many great adventures with those guys, especially Honey. And anyway, so we were getting these calls, and bands were asking us to support them, and I had managers ringing us up, and I was like, I don't know, man, we just do gigs. Like, wasn't really aware of any side of the business, and it was right at that time that I'd qualified for the Commonwealth Games team, the '94 Commonwealth Games.
Okay, yep.
In the 400 metres, and then I had met a coach over there, Matt Barber, and he invited me to go and compete with them in Europe over the summer. So I moved to England in the Northern Hemisphere in the summer holidays, the college summer holidays.
Okay, yeah.
And I competed. I went to Algeria, and I competed in Italy, and had a really great time. And I made a promise to my coach, because he'd invited me, and he wasn't charging me. He just wanted, I think he just wanted to help me out, and saw that I had some ability, and thought, he wanted to coach me. And so I said, look, if I run a PB, if I run my best time with you, then I'll do that. And then that year I got fourth in the Commonwealth Games and ran a PB in the 400 metres. So I was fourth by like that much.
Wow.
And the two guys ahead of me tested positive a couple of months later.
Oh shit! Really? So you got a silver?
No, didn't get a medal. No, that's not why I say that. But but I did that, and so then I left LA, and the Eddie in my band, poor guy, was distraught, because we were going to do really well.
Was that a big decision for you? Like, did you feel that something was happening?
It was huge, but I had this real commitment. I was like, I knew that music was something that I'd be able to go to at any point in my life.
Yeah.
But I knew that I had a real window that I could compete in athletics.
Yeah.
My grandfather had been an athlete, my dad had been an athlete, as I said, and my mum as well. She was at the Sydney athletic team. And I knew that if I didn't go that extra mile,
Now's the time.
I had to do it, and I'd missed the 92 games. I thought 96 is my shot. Like, that's,
Yeah.
I need to really just put everything aside and do this. And that's basically what I did. So I moved to Perth. I kept doing some gigs, but I was just doing covers gigs, and I was mucking around on a 4-track, and just, but I just really took the athletics seriously. And I was like, okay, I don't want to get 10 years from now and think that I didn't give it every chance.
You got to
I
give
had.
it everything.
And I did. I made it to the 96 games, and
Atlanta?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I competed in Atlanta in the 400 and the 4x4 relay, and I ran a really fast time. I ran my best time ever leading into the games in Johannesburg. I went to South Africa and trained for a couple of months, and that was a trip too. That's a whole book just there. Was
apartheid still around there?
Just after.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so
they just beat the All Blacks in the World Cup.
It was only like 5 or 6 years after it was dismantled, and they weren't happy about it. Like the whites weren't very happy about it anyway. And things were integrating, but there was still these old, like really
Afrikaner
old
dudes.
These ways had been sort of really strongly set, and everyone was walking around with guns and stuff. It was pretty full on. Really kind of hostile, but sort of, I don't know, a beautiful country. I really kind of felt at home there. So it felt a lot like Australia, South Africa, I thought.
You mean the landscape?
The energy of the land. I mean, it was a very different situation, that's for sure, but it felt like Australia. And so, yeah, did that and then ended up competing in Atlanta and then came back to Australia again and then wandered around for about a year. And then I started training for the Sydney Games, but my heart kind of wasn't in it. There was a few things kind of broke my heart in Atlanta. The one was that my training partner tested positive for stenazanol, and when I was just like, and we were really good mates and really close, and I was just like, how can that happen? Like I felt really, I just felt wrong. I don't know, and I also kind of, it was that moment when they lit the Olympic torch and it was a big McDonald's chip packet, and I was just like,
oh,
and I had this sinking feeling of like,
was it really?
oh, I've been hoodwinked into being part of this big marketing campaign.
I remember Atlanta. I remember watching it, and it did seem a bit like that.
It was odd. It was a really odd experience. But I think that's something about the Olympics that it can propel people to do either really good things or really bad things. So some people have a really amazing experience. They turn up and magically they just run incredibly well. And other people that are like running really well can run really badly. Like it's.
So you did a PB in South Africa
leading into the games.
How long before the games was that?
That was probably only about 6 weeks or something before.
Yep.
Yeah, and then I turned up and I was running like a second slower than that. So it was like.
But you still did bloody well.
I made the second round. Like my time going into the games was 45:16, which was my best time.
Yeah.
I ran that in Johannesburg, which is also at altitude, so that might have made a difference. But I was in really good shape, and I'd worked really hard and was really focused. But then getting to the games, it just kind of fell apart a little bit. I just didn't run my best. I just didn't feel good being there. It was really, I don't know if it was the stress or what it was, but I was there and that was my experience. And the older I get, the more I think, how the hell did I do that? So I don't know how I did it. I just worked really hard, I guess is the thing. But
is that the one with the bombing?
Yeah, there was a bombing in the like someone let off a bomb in a garbage bin or something, and I think a security guard was killed. There's 2 times that the Olympic flags have been at half mast. One was in 1972 when the Israeli team was kidnapped.
Yep.
And there was people shot there. And then the second time was in Atlanta, and I was my mum was pregnant with me at the 72 Olympic Games.
Wow. Okay.
Before I was born, a few months before, and then the second time was the Atlanta Games when I was there. I was always like, do.
Yeah.
So the Olympic story I tell, if I'm not going to get into the heavy stuff of what actually happened, but that year I was the fastest loser in the world.
Wow.
That Olympics.
Yeah.
I was the fastest loser in the whole Olympics. Because so when you run your heats, there's 10 heats.
Yep.
They take the first 2 and the next fastest losers. So I went through and I got 3rd in my heat, but I was the fastest qualifying time. So officially, I was the fastest loser in that Olympic Games.
That's fantastic.
And that's a T-shirt I should really get made.
Mate.
I was the fastest loser in Atlanta. Yep. And I feel like that's something that Australians can relate to.
They can get behind that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you bloody made it there. Jesus Christ.
I'm proud of that.
That much effort into it anyway. And what happened after that? Was that, so you said you were training for Sydney, but your heart wasn't there anymore?
Yeah, and I went walkabout for about a year. I drove back from Perth and spent lots of time doing that. And then I got back to Sydney and I was just like, I don't know, like the whole, I probably like, I don't know, it was really stressful. The Olympics was really stressful. And the kind of dealing with my performance and stuff, like I just was like, oh God, I put so much into it.
With the Olympics, so what do you mean, don't they just put you into a village and then you go run and you go back to the village and eat and stuff? Or was there more to it? Like, was it?
Yeah, it was like that, but it was so... But the village environment, we're staying in a dormitory. So I was at Georgia Tech in Atlanta. Okay. So we're staying in the dorms. So I was staying in a dorm with my mate, Rowan Robinson, who, we always roomed together on teams. He played guitar as well. And he ended up getting 5th in the 400 metre hurdles that year. He had a great year. And, we're still really good mates and he's a champion. Like he really excelled. But just things like we're in this dorm. There were five McDonald's in the Olympic Village in different points around the place, and they were all free.
They're feeding.
Yeah, but they just had because they were sponsored by Macca's because it was a big chip packet thing.
You're kidding? So the actual Olympic torch was a chip packet. You weren't joking. Was it really?
Yeah.
Holy shit!
Have a look at it. It's like it looks like a big Macca's chip packet.
Oh my!
Fucking God. And it was that kind of. That's it was just that
ultra capitalist.
Totally, it was like the epicenter of capitalism, and at that time too. And like the most the most important thing in the news other than the Olympics at the time was Monica Lewinsky. That was that time.
Yeah.
Everything was great, actually. Really, if you think about it, '96, it was pretty amazing time.
Yeah, it was,
in
man.
history. Things were good. There wasn't a lot of shit going down really. There's probably 27 wars that the US were fighting, but it wasn't in the news.
But it was before 2001, and it was just after the wall fell. And it was the Western one. It was all great, and we're all going to be awesome, and the end of history.
Yeah, and the Nasdaq was just going to keep climbing.
It was going to keep going
and keep going forever.
Yes,
and everyone was getting rich, and it was like and there was good music around.
grunge didn't like. I remember when you probably the same. I remember where I was when I heard "Smells Like Teen Spirit" because I remember the song before it was "Can't Touch This" by MC Hammer. And I heard that for like 6 months non-stop, and I just hated this shit. And I'm like, oh man, there's nothing. And then I was driving my mum, and I was in a little place called Weymouth, and this actual song came on with actual anger and shit. And I'm like, what the hell? And and it was.
It was new.
It was new, and it was angry, and it was my shit. And I'm like, this is fucking great. And then, let alone Temple of the Dog, then you didn't have to be good looking and shit to do music. And it was something we thought, oh, thank Christ it's finally turned and we got some good music. And we didn't realise it was kind of the end of, it was like the last hurrah of the Titanic as the bow goes up. And then when technology changed, there was no money left to give $1 million advances anymore to these bands and shit, And it was a big change, man?
It was huge. Well, they were also riding that wave when CDs had come in the 80s.
Yeah.
The record companies made more money after that because everyone went out and bought the vinyl because they convinced everyone that CDs were this amazing format and it was like super duper. And there was
remember that you could put cream on it and scratch it and stick it in,
And it still worked. It's like
still,
But 10 years later, none of my CDs seem to work. They're all busted. I
only
buy vinyl now. So
yep.
But then iTunes, that's another sort of decade.
Well, Napster. That's the interesting thing. When Napster came along and Lars sued them and all that, became the most evil man on the planet.
Biggest ego, perhaps.
Yeah, it's always the pirates get there first, isn't it? I think the same thing's happened with Bitcoins because the pirates got there and they did Napster, which is just iTunes. And then Apple came along and said, oh, shit, we can take this and make money from it.
Yeah.
And just suck the money out of everyone, and Spotify came along and did it even more.
Yeah. Things changed. So after I'd made my first record in '99. So
okay, yeah.
And I'd figured out I'd made
was
friends
this
with a
singer
guy.
songwriting things, or were you still band like? Or?
So what happened? So this is where the Olympic and the music story kind of intersect. So I was training for the Sydney Games, and I got a letter from SOCOG saying there's this Olympic music project. It's being the executive producer is Rob Hurst from Midnight Oil.
Oh yeah.
And we're looking for athletes that have any musical ability. If you have any, or if you're interested, get in touch with us or send us something to hear. And so I'd written this song called "You're Here," and I'd written it and I'd played it to the Olympic team in '96.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then and the coaches were like, "Oh, this is great little thing for everyone to do. Let's get together and Paul teach us this song."
Yeah.
So I taught them this song, and it had this "'Cause you're here." You're here. It had this big sort of singy chorus. And so I taught it to the track team. When we got to the Olympic Village in '96, the track team then played it and taught it to the swim team. So we had this
great.
amazing. And Steve Vizard was there, and someone else was there watching this thing happen. And I was kind of in the middle of it. And all these people just I sort of realised all these TV personalities, they were just falling over themselves to be seen on TV with Olympians. It was really good for them. I had this kind of little inside look at kind of at that side of being famous and just going, ugh. It didn't it's never sat well with me. So, but anyway, so then coming to the Sydney Games, I still had the cassette of this song that I'd gone to some recording studio in England and done a demo of. So I sent it to SOCOG, and then I'd sort of forgotten about it. I was like, oh yeah, it's one of those things. And then one day I just got a call out of the blue from And I was like, "Oh, Paul Greene, it's Rob Hurst from Midnight Oil here. I'm just listening to your demo tape in my. I've just bought a turquoise Mercedes and I'm driving to Byron Bay." And I was just, and I remember the conversation. I was just going, "Wow, that's great. Are the seats comfy?"
Yeah.
And then they go off. He's like, "Oh, we're going to be in the studio like in a couple of weeks' time. Are you able to come in and say good day? Like we might get you. We want to get you to maybe do some stuff on some songs." And I was like, "Yeah, sure. Like okay." And I was doing like a heap of covers gigs. I'd moved from Sydney down to Wollongong, and I was just doing like 5 gigs a week because I could. There was just all these gigs going, so I started doing lots of gigs, and then I got this invite to go and work with Rob, and it ended up being the project was called Olympic Record. They ended up calling it.
Yep.
And it was had Tina Arena and Diesel and Daryl Braithwaite and Shanley Dell and who else was on it? There was all these amazing Australian artists that I sort of
all of them.
I ended up being in the house band, so I was the acoustic guitar player. Rick Grossman, who was like the Vinyls and Hoodoo Gurus, and Matt Finish, he was on bass. Paul DeComo, who was from Matt Finish. Lee Maloney was on drums, and he'd played on Alex Lloyd's record.
Yep.
And they were all part of the Ghost Riders, so it was pretty much the Ghost Riders. And then I got to work with all these amazing musos, and the weirdest thing was for me is like I was keeping up with them. Like I thought I was going to be that, like I was going to embarrass myself.
Yeah, yeah.
I just hoped for the best, but they ended up. I ended up I could keep up, and I was actually playing okay, and people were, I was sort of. I wasn't making a fool of myself. So, and it was great. So I got to do that. And then Rob invited me to come and do some writing with him, and we ended up writing together. And then that turned into the Hurst and Greene project.
Oh,
and
beautiful.
Rob really became a mentor. And it was at that point I was like, because he'd actually was the only person that just said to me, "He was like, oh, you could do this for a living if you wanted. You could have a career doing this."
Yeah.
I played him some of my songs, and he was, he was pretty hard, but he wasn't sort of dismissive.
That's good to hear.
He gave me time.
It's better to have someone hard because I've been honest,
Yeah, he was like, yeah, no, I don't think that works, but that part of the song works. And he's so prolific. He's incredible,
yeah,
and he's still a good friend. And he became a real mentor for me, and just sort of showed me sort of a way. I don't know if he did it intentionally or not, but so that's around about that time I made my first record, The Miles, and I figured out how to. Met a guy that worked in a studio, recorded it myself, figured out how to get it manufactured, figured out how to do the mastering.
Yeah.
Had some friends help me and show me how to do it. I just didn't. Went well. If I make 1,000 copies of it, and it's spent this much money, and if I can sell 500 of them, then I'll at 300 I've broken even.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well I'll have a crack at that.
Not much has changed though. That's kind of the way to do it though now, isn't it?
I'm just about to release my 10th album, and it's still the way I'm doing it.
That's the way to do it, and you probably make more than Prince did.
Maybe.
When he was with Sony and all that, he got nothing.
He got millions spent on his brand, on him and his marketing, and that's the thing you may not make money from it, but he could sell his nail clippings and make billions though because of that marketing. It's like, he's a standout. And I see the kind of trade-off that people kind of go, I didn't make any money. It's like, yeah, but you had $6 billion spent on marketing for it. So you can rock up anywhere.
And you didn't read the contract, I was listening to Jewel, and she was homeless when she got her big break, at a coffee shop and all that, and they offered her $1 million advance, and she didn't know what it meant, so she went to the local library and got a book out about business. And then she realised, the advance is actually just a loan. They want to loan me with interest all this money, and then if I don't make the money, I'm gone. So she, as a homeless chick, she turned $1 million down. She said, "No, I'll sign it, but don't give me any money. Just give me a little allowance a month so I can live." Yeah, and that's the only reason she made it. She reckons because she did nothing for 2 years, nothing happened, but because she was costing them $12 a month. Yep, they just let her on, Whereas if you haven't earned your money. Yeah, if you take a big loan like that,
they own you. Yeah,
they own you. Yeah. Mm. So
I've seen that. I've seen a few people kind of fall into that trap where they've had the promise of the shiny lights and it's going to be played on Triple J and it's going to be huge and you'll be doing all
Oh, Triple J. Are we going to go there? We don't want to get disbarred, but look,
they're okay.
I don't think like they were, but my God. What have you actually put? You're in the car and you listen to radio, ABC or whatever, and then you flick Triple J on. Man, it sounds like you're listening to the most commercial radio you ever heard. Like a lot of the time, maybe at 2:00 in the morning they might have some death metal on or something. But
I put it on recently, and I had it on in my car actually. Like I think just last week I had it on for a couple of days.
What was it? Was it good? Was it okay?
It was all right. It was it wasn't. Yeah, I think for what it is, being like the national youth station and being there isn't many radio stations in the world that are bigger.
Yeah,
and that's obviously it's
a monolith on Australia, isn't it? Like if you don't get picked up by Triple J, you're just not going anywhere.
No, I don't believe that. I don't think that's true. I think that's one way to go, and it's like it's a way, and like if you're getting plays on Triple J, then yes, you're going to be huge, but and you're going to be exposed to a massive audience. But it's definitely not the only way. It's a fast track.
It's a fast
and it's run by people that have opinions about what's
they have
good
very strong opinions
and what should be played on Australian youth radio.
They're all in their 50s. Nothing wrong with people in their 50s, but I don't know. As a taxpayer, it fucks me off. Like I listen to 2SCR and FBI, and even the local Vox they've got real people that do it for free, and they love the music and they play whatever they want. And I think Robbie Bucks has just fucked that whole station. That's a personal opinion. I don't want to knock it, but
I think as soon as it went from when it was Triple J and it was just Sydney, it was that, and then it became syndicated around Australia. It changed, and things changed. But there is still, I'm a huge fan of community radio. Yeah, and I've actually got my own community radio show. So I play Triple UFM in Nowra. Every Thursday, 2 to 4, I do Sounds Delicious Radio.
What do you play?
I feature one artist.
Brilliant! Yeah.
So last week I featured the Waterboys.
Oh wow! Whole of the Moon, man.
Yeah.
What a lyricist!
Fisherman's Blues.
Yeah. Do you play Fisherman's Blues?
I do a version of the Whole of the Moon. I'd love to do Fisherman's Blues.
There's a lot of chords in Whole of the Moon.
There's a lot of words too.
Yeah, he's a great lyricist. Man.
He's a brilliant lyricist. But it was amazing going from his really early, this first album, and then going through the big sound period. And I just love it because I get to sit down for 2 hours and study one artist.
That sounds
and
great.
I go through Wikipedia and I play I go from the first song on their first album, and I did Vanda and Young a couple of weeks ago, and then the next week I did AC/DC.
God, you need a few bloody weeks for those. That long.
Yeah, Vanda and Young. Not the Easy Beats. Sorry, the Easy Beats.
Yeah, because Vanda and Young were the most prolific songwriters of all time.
Oh, the hit machines. Yeah, with the other guy who was in there as well. The Vanda and Young were always touted as being the ones, but it was initially the other guy.
Oh,
Stevie Wright.
Steve Wright. Yeah.
He was actually the one that got it. He wrote all the songs for the first couple of albums.
Yeah, and he had the look as well, and the girls loved him.
The charisma as well. Yeah,
great voice.
But what a great Australian band! And I always find something that I didn't see, and so I love my 2 hours on the radio to actually just study. I'm thinking of doing the Stems and Dom Mariani on my show tomorrow.
Okay,
Australian songwriter, not very well known, kind of had a big hit in the early '80s with the Stems.
Yeah,
But then he's had this amazing solo career as well, and he's got his own record label, and I've learnt a little bit about his career since, and it's his solo thing. And again, massive in Europe, had this huge career in Europe. The Saints was another one that I did, which was a really interesting...
The original punk band, do you think, the Saints?
Yeah, I reckon. Yeah, I reckon that they were the starters. I think whether everyone else knew about them or not, or copied them or not.
I think there's a few records that get over to London and stuff, though, didn't they?
They did go over there and play. But... It's just a great way to research music, and
what a good thing!
I love it.
How interesting!
Yeah, I was thinking one day of just becoming another persona and featuring my own music maybe one week.
Well, I think you should. You are volunteering.
Maybe you could host my show.
Yeah, you
could feature.
I'll feature you, and you can feature.
Because that would feel a bit weird if I featured myself.
Let's do that.
I think that would technically be being a wanker. I think that would.
But
we're
in rock and roll, man. We're all wankers. You got to be a wanker. You got to own it.
True. That's you got. If you're going to do rock and roll, you have to be a bit of a wanker anyway, because you have to shamelessly self promote, and you've got to be okay with that.
You do.
And
You
it's
know?
like, yeah, and that's the ugly side of it. I'd rather just sit in my studio and make songs. I would rather not do that, but unfortunately,
I'm
I
just
kinda have to.
exactly the same, you know, like if you want to follow what you love and what makes you happy, if I wrote it down in the book, man, obviously family and stuff, but really as a personal work thing, I just love being in the studio, man. And I think what do I love about it is the creativity. And I think that's what every human loves, you know, is to be involved in their work and have a say in their work and to be creative in their work.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, you know.
I still get the biggest buzz if it's my stuff or if it's someone else's songs that I'm producing. It's like I still get the biggest kick out of like when you do something and you sit back and listen to the final thing and just go, yeah, and it starts to sort of take shape. And at first it's just like really rough and then you add this and you add that and then you put something else on and then all of a sudden it's just like, wow, it's a real song. And watching other people do that too, and especially people that have never, like they don't even really, like we're saying, like publicity and selling yourself is such a huge part of it. And it becomes like the only part, I think, sometimes for people. But then there's also people that don't have that and they just have this songs. They've just written songs and they're shy and they're awkward and they're weirdos but they've just made up all these songs and bringing those songs and then kind of bringing life to them and then showing it to them and go, look how cool you are. That's so cool. Like this sounds like something you'd hear on the radio and this is fucking great and you did this. Yeah. And seeing their faces when they do that and they just go,
wow.
Oh, that's actually one of my favourite drugs at the moment.
Yeah.
That's a good one. And I still do it with my own stuff too. I play a song and I've written a song and then I'm like, yeah, I may as well. I'll bang it out and I had one the other day that I had like, I was at uni all day and then I had like an hour break in the studio. So I was like, and I'd been like singing this song in my head that I hadn't recorded yet. And I went, I'm just going to do it. So I set up the click track and I put down the bass line and then I put the drums down and then I put a guitar line down and just quickly sang it. Did some BVs in about 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's the take that's going to be released on my next
Good
on
on
my
you.
record. But I just
don't need to do too much, you know. Like
no, I don't even think it.
Stick it out.
Just like just do it. Just got to do it sometimes. Not be too precious with it.
Yeah, for sure. So you're still writing a lot then. So you say you've done 10 albums already. So you started in '99 with your first album, and then it's every couple of years you're banging one out.
Yeah. So the way it went was I made that 1,000 records and I sold them out in about 6 months because I was doing 5 or 6 gigs around Sydney every week. Yeah. And I was just back in the day, you'd play a song and I go, hey, I got a record, and people would listen enough to go, oh, yeah, it's interesting, and if I'd sell like 5 or 6 a night, sometimes I'd sell like 30 a night if it was a good night.
What were you charging?
$20.
That's good money,
It was actually really good money. Like I had enough to make more pressing, so I pressed another 1,000, and then I think I sold out in another 6 months, and then so I got another 2,000 pressed, and then 18 months later I made another record, and then so I had 2 albums to sell, and then I reckon, I don't know how many, I've lost count, but I reckon I've sold over 80,000 records.
Fantastic. Just
from how many I've had printed. That I've pressed. And then
that's mainly from gigs. So
almost 100%. I'd say 99% gigs. But I think that was my thing is like I think my love for music and my exuberance for it came through when I played.
Yeah. Well, I do the same thing. If I see someone working and going really well, and I think that's another thing, isn't it? Because everyone's got Spotify now, but I'll buy CDs anyway, and I'll never play them. That'll just be a thing because I'll listen to it on Spotify, or unless it's vinyl, I will buy vinyl if it's there. But it's just to support the artist. Like they could sell me a coffee mug, and
that's kind of how it is now.
Thing,
That is sort of how it is. You go to the gigs and you buy something to sort of show you're a fan. It's like part of your tribe. Spotify did change that, but I also just kind of I did it for a long time. I ended up, I saved up and we bought a house with my wife, and then
so you made a complete living not doing anything else.
Yeah, that was it. I was touring my butt off. I was doing 1 year I did 250 shows a year. Yeah, but I was doing 120 easy right through to the end, and that was when I was doing ticketed shows and touring like a bastard, just non-stop. And
you and an acoustic or with the band?
Yeah, pretty much me and an acoustic. I got bored of that and I tried to get a band together.
Drummers? It was a drummer, wasn't it? It's always a fucking drummer, man.
I had a few errors and a few trials, and just not errors, just difficult situations. I had a one tour I went with. I had an old school. I'm still good mates with these people, so I don't want to talk shit about them. But I had Angus Diggs on drums, who was just an incredible drummer and an amazing muso, but had a real drinking problem at the time. And then the bass player in my band was Josh Schuberth, and he was Josh Pike's drummer, and he's now like one of the top session drummers in the world or Australia.
Yeah,
the world, Josh. We'll just say the world, hey.
Yeah.
And so it was Josh's first tour. And Angus's last, pretty much.
So Josh was on bass though.
Yeah, Josh was playing bass.
Okay, and he's a shit hot drummer.
Now he's a shit at everything. He's one of those guys. He's just a savant. Like he's just really amazing producer, really amazing songwriter and instrumentalist. Just hears music differently to other people. You come across him every now and then. He's definitely one of those cats. And so that was like, Angus had to fly back to Perth, and his marriage was falling apart, and Josh was going to drive my car home, and the car broke down, and we had to put him up in a hotel. And meanwhile, I actually got to this point where I was actually at a place at Point Augusta in Western Australia. I'd driven all the way across. We'd played in Ceduna in Adelaide. Meanwhile, Josh is still stuck in Queensland, and I actually got to the point where I was like, I had $6.
Yeah,
and I had to still and I didn't have any petrol. And I had to get to my next gig, which is in Margaret River, and I actually didn't have the money to do it. And I was just kind of going, holy shit, what am I going to do? Like I'm going to go busking or something.
Yeah.
I ended up spending the $6 on bait. I went fishing and caught a heap of herring off the beach. We met this other couple. I was there with my wife, Kate, and we met this other couple, and they were like, we sort of showed them how to do it. We were using I think I was using a bit of straw or something. I was using like a lure to get these herring I'd learnt from some fishermen somewhere. Anyway, I showed these people how to do it. We ended up having this big feast. We're like, come back to the campsite, we'll do that. Yeah. And then they're like, what are you doing here? I was like, I'm doing a gig in Margaret River. And they said, I thought it was you. We saw you play a gig in Melbourne. We meant to get you out and can we buy a couple of your records? And I was like, yeah, you can. And I was like, so I had $40, and that was seriously all I had left. And that was what paid for the petrol to get to the next gig. Yes. And it was things like that you kind of go, oh,
yeah.
Anyway, these things kind of every now and then come to test you.
But they do, and then you have a story and you grow from it. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I see it as like tests. It's like you kind of get tests like, do you really want this?
Yeah, that's right.
Do you really want it? How far are you willing to go? You're going to give in now? It's getting hard. You're going to give in. It's like, and so you just keep going and evolve and learn and if you love it, it's not hard work. It's always it's harder work just keeping faith, I think, sometimes, and just kind of going, no, this is what I want to do. This is important. This is making me happy. And
that's the main thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
do something that makes you happy, man.
That's the truth, man. I think if you're hating what you do, then it's going to kill you. Pretty quick. You can't. I think you can sort of sell your time and get money for it to a point, but I think there's a point. There's always a point.
Well, yeah. Well, most people, I think, you rent your time out, isn't it? And then you have no say on what happens with that time you rent it out. It's been you chefed as well. You were saying, So there's one, and you've got a catering business. You're still running that, or?
Well, so I started doing these events called Sounds Delicious. And so the idea is that there was in Nowra there was like shitty pub gigs. Where you're playing under the pokies, or the Keno screen, or at the pub and you just sort of background, or there was like the Milton Theatre and the Entertainment Centre, which are like corporate sort of venues, and they're actually really expensive. Like I'd played at both of those, and they were, just pay the sound guy and the venue hire was like a couple of $grand, and it was like, it's like, and there was nothing sort of in between. So people were putting on some stuff and people are putting stuff in halls. And so I just sort of went, look, I think that I just sort of came up with this idea, and I was seeing this girl who ran a restaurant in Huskisson, and I was working in the restaurant, and I always loved, my favourite place to see a band would have been the Brass Monkey in Cronulla. Tiny little room. Mum does the cooking, the family all run it, and they do, and the food's incredible, and it's sort of it's Lebanese because they're Lebanese, and they do it really well, and it's not kind of trying to be fancy, but it's really good, and it's such a great environment to see music. And the basement in Sydney was the same. And so but that was a bit more like, I feel like what they did at the Brass Monkey in Cronulla was actually like really genuine, and it just created a great experience and a great way to see the music because it was family. They were really passionate about it. They always took pride and care in what they did. Basement was a little bit like, great music, great stage, and we'll feed you.
Yeah,
sort
yeah,
of thing.
for sure.
And so I wanted to. So I sort of used that as the model because they were my favourite places to play. Lazotte's was another one that did that really well. And so I just sort of took that model and went and did it in a hall in Huskisson.
Okay.
And just went, well, it was too expensive to hire lots of chefs, and I'd sort of worked a little bit as a chef, and so I just went, well, I'll do the food. And I sort of did everything really, and for a few I did the sound and the food. And I don't play, I just get someone to do the door, and my daughters do the waiting and wait tables and take out, and mum and dad would help out. And it's sort of grown, and it's kind of, the more I've done it, the better I've got at it, and the easier it is to do, and the more I kind of know what I want from it. Yeah. And so, like in the last, when COVID when the lockdown lifted in the start of this year, I had Joe Camilleri was like my first.
Oh, nice.
And then I had Steve Kilby, and I had Hussey Hicks and the Dead Marines and the New Graces, and then I had, who else did I have earlier last year?
So you're doing this quite often then?
I was doing like one a month, yeah.
Yeah.
And they're not like, I don't make any money. I don't make much money out of them. I break even. I don't think I've lost money on any of them. I've got Tim Bowen coming up in December 10, and I've got Kim Churchill playing in December 11. And I'll be doing, those two.
So you pay the artist, or they take?
Yeah, so basically it's like a door, it's a dinner and show for the ticket.
Yep.
And it's limited tickets, they're 80 at the moment. So, and that's mostly because that's how many wine glasses and plates and knives and forks and tablecloths and chairs and things. Like I've accumulated all that as well.
Yeah, yeah.
But I've loved it that it's kind of been like top shelf, like presenting music like in the environment that I think it should be, and doing it, just trying to do it so that the artist has the best experience and the audience has the best experience. And I made some enemies because I introduce everyone, like I introduce myself in the night and say thank you for coming, and the artist tonight, and a few house rules. If you want to talk, leave the fucking building.
Yeah.
Because it's like, if you're here to experience good music and you're talking through it, it's kind of like buying a nice bottle of wine and drinking it while you're eating chewing gum. Yeah, you're not, and please just leave. I'll refund your ticket if you're going to talk, and if you don't like it, that's fine. I'll refund your ticket and go. And I've built this beautiful listening audience. These people that come and they're there and they're attentive and they listen to everything, and the performers always have a great show because they know that they connect with the audience really well, and that they're a lovely crew. I don't advertise them much. They're very much like word of mouth, or you've got to be on the mailing list. I try to keep them kind of a bit quiet. I had Tim Friedman come and do 2 shows.
Oh, really?
And that was the other guy I had. Yeah, Tim Friedman and Ben Lee. They're 2 that I had last year as well. Tim Friedman actually said, his way of thanking me, he said, as he was like twinkling away on his piano, and like I've always really admired him. I thought he was like a really interesting character. And he said to us, "There's a lot of great places to play in Australia, and I wish there was a Paul Greene in all of them." and it's funny. I took that and I went, "Actually, that's a good idea. What if I made Sounds Delicious mobile?"
That's a great idea.
So that's what I'm working on that at the moment. So. Incorporating some other elements of things that I do as well. But that's my kind of year down the track idea.
That's a bloody great idea. I'd go. Friends of mine tried to set up a similar thing up in the Southern Highlands, and they didn't do what you did, which is put some rules down. And they used to play at Kangaloo Hall. We played there a couple of times. It was great, but then it got quite big, and it ended up, and there was no alcohol, so you could bring your kids and all that, but it just became like a crash. And all the mums would just let the kids run around, and you're trying to play a song, and like we had like dual singers and all that, and they ended up having to can it because they couldn't control the rude crowd. It was really strange. Yeah,
that's the one thing I love. It's like the people that come to the gigs are lovely, and it's like, and the really lovely ones come back, like, and they get what I'm doing, and they get that I'm trying to create a space for artists to do something, and I understand what it kind of takes. I also understand from an audience perspective, and I've got this really lovely kind of like what they used to call like a Melbourne audience. happening in the Shoalhaven and the Jervis Bay area, and more people are sort of hearing about it, and just it's growing just sort of bit by bit, and I love them. There's always a moment in those nights that you look around the room, I look around the room, and everyone is just transported somewhere.
Yeah,
it's like they are just completely absorbed by what's going on, and that's to me what music should be like. It's the closest thing I've experienced to magic, when everybody's just actually somewhere else. They're in this world that the musician has created, and they're just and they're not thinking about anything but that. They're not thinking about themselves. They're not thinking about their worries. They're not thinking about anything, other than the moment that they're experiencing, and that feels like magic to me when everybody's doing that. Yeah. It just creates this kind of electricity in the air. I don't know what it is, but and that's why I do it. That's to try to create that feeling at a gig, because I think when everyone experiences that at the same time, it's like this tribal connection.
Oh, it is, and that's why you go back.
Yeah,
you're waiting for that one good gig,
and you don't. And it's hard to find places that you can do that. So,
for sure,
there's too many places that it's hard putting on live music. It's tricky, and I think a lot of venues have. I've played a lot of gigs. I've been to. Probably not as many as I've played, but I've sort of seen different venues and the different ways people do things. And that model that they have at the Brass Monkey in Cronulla, and Jad, I'll give you guys full props for inspiring me there and they're still running a great venue. And,
that's awesome.
Yeah, but I wish there was a million Jads. I wish there was a lot more Jads out there. If you could come and work for me at my event, that'd be good.
Wow, so you've got some more coming up?
Yeah.
We're just out of lockdown now, so it's you've had them ready to roll, or have you had to postpone
Kim Churchill
them?
I've had to postpone like 5 times.
Oh, bloody hell.
Timothy James Bowen, who known for quite a while, did very well on The Voice last year.
Okay.
The year before. He's someone that I've kind of like became friends with. Actually, the first I heard about him, he was actually doing a Paul Greene cover. And
really?
I put it on YouTube, and I was like, oh, that's really nice.
That's great. You must
that's
be
the biggest compliment you could give, is to do a cover of one of my songs. And his sister Claire Bowen is on the TV show Nashville. She's quite that's successful TV person.
I think Reinberger might have interviewed her or something. I remember that.
Yeah, cool. So he's playing, and then that's all I've got booked at the moment. Everyone's a bit sort of tentative, but I'll probably be doing a few over the summer. Next year, in March, I'm doing an album launch for my new record. So,
going to do a bit of a tour. Fingers crossed.
I don't know. Maybe just do one gig. Just do one big one.
What about the online stuff? How's your online presence with the? I've seen a few of your sessions you've been doing now. Is it on a Friday?
I did a couple of sessions, and I just didn't enjoy it. I didn't have that feeling of playing
to a crowd.
I just didn't. I just didn't really enjoy it. I didn't feel like I did a very good job either. I feel like I needed much better equipment, and
it's funny, like doing the guitar grades and that now, they're not one-on-one, which I thought, this will be great. You just film it and send it in and all that. But it's actually a lot harder filming it, man, because one-on-one, it's a performance, you perform, and they get the vibe of what you're doing. They're not recording it, and they don't go back over it.
Yeah.
But when you film it, every single note, little note just stands out. You get really bloody paranoid about everything.
Yeah,
it's got to be perfect. That's that's what I found with the. This is it's for doing. They're going to examine it, I suppose, but it made it a lot more difficult to. Like I did last one, I did like 30 takes, just to try and get this fucking piece perfect, And I'm sure they were fine, But they weren't.
It's harder to get the vibe, and a live performance is different to a recording for sure.
Yeah, well, absolutely. It doesn't hang around forever. And I think that's an issue I might have with a bit of modern music is we can fix everything, and so, you can, not even auto-tune, but you can just do a million takes on that guitar solo and we can take it note by note. And then we made you a nice guitar solo, but it's not really a.
But is it?
It's not a record. Yeah, is it? Like what's a perfect guitar solo? It's kind of like you've planned out what this thing is going to be, but in life there is no plans. Plans it fucks up every time.
The new record, I was like, I got a couple of rules, and one of them is it has to be a single take. Like I don't drop in, I don't edit, and it has to be single takes.
That's awesome. Yeah.
I can go back and overdub things, but I leave mistakes in there. And
if you leave them in, it means you meant to leave them in. They're on purpose.
And it's sort of, I want it to be a little bit rough on the edges, and even though it's it's probably the rockiest album, or not. It's kind of like got this soul kind of. It's like Bill Withers meets the Rolling Stones. It's kind of got this blues,
nice. Yeah.
but also this soul kind of, this soul like. It's got a groove, but it's still sort of blues as well, and it's. Not that I've ever really done a blues album before, but
and you're playing everything on this. You're doing the drums,
so
as well?
It started out experimenting with drum sounds because I had this room and I really liked the room sound, and I was sort of every time you record the drums, I'd change something and I'd do something else, and then I really like that, or I'd add another mic to it, and I'd be like, I like what that does.
Yeah.
So you kind of tweak this drum sound, and I had this drum room when I was in a big sort of open room. And then I moved house, and in the new one, the room was smaller, and I kind of didn't like the room sound as much. But I'd also been listening to lots of modern, like sort of new releases. Can't remember what it was I was listening to. There's a few things, and I kept noticing this really dry drum sound, like this.
Okay, yeah.
This really close mic dry drum sound. I was like, I'm going to try and do that. I'm just going to try and get that sound happening. And so I set up the drums and started. And then I just needed something to play, so I was like, I'll do that. So I ended up doing what was the first one I did? I did a Roger Tillman cover.
Okay.
It's called Loving You Is Sweeter Than Ever. And it's like this song I just heard, and I was like, that's a classic song. Like, that is such a classic written song. And the reason I found it was because I'm a big J.J. Cale fan.
Oh, yeah,
and
sure.
And I've been collecting this vinyl, and on the album Grasshopper, there's a song in there called One Step Ahead of the Blues, and I was like, that's a killer song. Like, that's up there with some of his best songs. And I was looking at the liner notes. I was like, it's a Roger Tillman song. Who the hell's Roger Tillman? So I looked up Roger Tillman and downloaded. I was just listening. I downloaded it on iTunes. He only got one record. And then so I had this. And then I heard this. It was like the last song on his record. And I was like, that's. I just sort of found it sort of the day before. I was like, I'm just going to record that just so I've got something to do. So I then just went about doing that. And then it came out great. I was really happy with it. So then I kept going, and then I had some new songs that I started working on, and a few I'd just written, and it's turned into like 10 new songs ready to go.
Fantastic.
Got a Randy Newman cover on there that I've always wanted to do.
Which one?
It's called I'll Be Home.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, it's on his live album. I think it's on one of his really. It might be. It's one of his earlier albums. It's a really lovely song, but I've turned it into like a Bill Withersy kind of song.
Yeah.
And then what's the other cover? Prince. I got a Prince cover on there of When You Were Mine.
Okay.
Just another song I just love.
Yeah.
I think it's just such clever songwriting. And so it was just, they were like, I was just demoing. I was just trying to get these drum sounds. The drumming I always find is the hardest thing to capture.
It is.
Yeah. I love bass playing the most.
Yeah.
Like, I really love playing bass, and I feel like that's the thing that gives it its movement. But getting decent drums is like the biggest challenge,
especially in a little studio and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So, and because I did my own drumming and my daughter helped me out, but we're not used to recording drums. We can bang them out and jam and have a good time and all that, but you know, when the microphones are there, and you got to be onto it. You can't be hitting loud and soft and all this, you know.
No, it's the, like, people used to, when I started playing cover bands when I was a kid, they were like, what's the definition of a drummer? Is that someone that hangs around musicians? And it's like, now I see that is actually true, but it's not. That's more of a slight on musicians.
Yeah.
It's actually like, I think drummers are on a totally another level.
Yeah.
And to be able to play drums well, it's like, wow, that's like, to be able to play them well, to be able to play them at all.
Play them all, but then to do one take recording, you know,
timing
is really difficult, man.
It's like, the more I produce, the more I see it as like being a time lord when you're recording an album.
Yeah, for sure.
You capture these moments in time, and then you go back and you revisit these moments of time, and then you can manipulate the time the way that you want to manipulate it, and you get back and to revisit this moment, which was like a performance of something like guitar or voice of a song, and then you can manipulate that time, and then you kind of put it in a container, and then you kind of sell it to people.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like being a time lord. Old Doctor Who fan.
Yeah, for sure. I was listening to Bill Drummond, do you remember a band called the KLF?
Yeah.
Back in the day, yeah, man. Well, yeah, man. Justified Ancients of Moo Moo.
Yeah.
And I was listening to Bill Drummond, he's still around, you know, and he does this thing where he does impromptu choirs now, and he goes to like Beijing, and he'll just get on YouTube and get like 1,000 people together and do impromptu choirs all over. Like one person will scream out a note, and then like 100 metres down the road, someone will hear it and scream it, and no one knows what's going on. And then next you know, all around Shanghai or wherever he happens to be, there'll be this choir just happen all around random spots.
Wow.
Yeah, they were an interesting band, man. And yeah, he was talking about all music. Once it happened in like say 1900s, you can class all music as one form of music, as recorded music. Every music wanted to be recorded. You know, before then there was no recorded music.
No,
and everyone and most people were musicians because they'd buy the music and someone in the family had to play because that was the entertainment.
Yeah, it's all you had.
It's all you had, and so he's trying to bring it back. He doesn't let any of the concerts he does be filmed or anything like that, and they're all one-off pieces, like these impromptu choirs and stuff. Yeah, they were interesting. You know, he burnt £1 million. Like they not more than that. So the KLF, they made it the number one singles band in '91. They made all this money, and then they realised they'd sold their souls. And they're like, "What are we going to do? We can't do this. This is bullshit. We don't want to be famous and rich." So they got not only did they get all the money they had. They got all their recording contracts and their original master tapes, and they took it to the island of Jura, where Orwell wrote 1984, and they went to a little shed and burnt it all, like everything they owned, and so
wow, okay,
yeah, and they still made a living after it, quite a good one and stuff,
probably.
you know, but
good story, having a good story to tell, man. It's worth £1 million.
Yeah, but they didn't really tell it, you know. People just kind of found out about it.
Huh.
So,
that is bizarre.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they're kind of weird cats, you know. Like they'll turn up to for an interview, but they'll have to walk around the house like 5 times first, you know, and they've got the saying, "Oh, if we knew why we were doing it, we wouldn't do it," which I really like as well.
That's a good ethos. I like that. Yeah, you can be weird and rich, and you're eccentric. You're weird and poor. You're just weird.
You're just weird. Yeah. How do we get onto KLF? I'm not sure. How do you go about songwriting? Do you start with the chords and stuff first, or are you lyric driven?
I can do either way. Like I can sometimes have words. I usually, it might sound like hippie bullshit, but I dream songs quite frequently.
Okay.
Or they're just like little, like sometimes just daydreams, but I'll just have like a thing in my head. I'll just be like, this little meme will come in of this, like a feel or just an idea, and it's like a daydream almost, and I just sort of I dream it. It's just sort of I hear it. Sometimes it's like tuning into a radio where you have to you're not quite tuned in, and you can just hear bits of it, and but you kind of get a gist of how it goes.
Sure.
And then sometimes I get to I sort of work with the little pieces I've got, and then try and like fill in the pieces that should be there. So that honestly, that's like. And I'll just have an idea in my head, or I'll be playing on a guitar and I'll make an accent. I'll do an accent, or make something that I didn't mean to do, and be like, "Oh, actually, what did I just do then?" And I was like, "Cool." So I'll have a little riff, and then that'll just sort of sit with me. And as that's happening, and then I've sort of developed this thing where if I've got music going, especially I write with this guy, the guy Eddie that I played in the band with in LA.
Yeah.
He sometimes sends me music and what to write, and so how I write is I play his. I don't listen to what he's done. I set his song up on a track, so it's a stereo track.
Yeah.
And then I set up a vocal track for myself, and then I just play the song, and then I just get into the song, and then something just pours out. Like it takes me somewhere, and I'll just pour out, and I just try not to get in the fucking way. I just try and let it out without being self-conscious and without thinking about it and without judging it, and just don't have any ego about it, and just let it come through. Like it's like channeling something, and that sometimes I won't do it all in one take. Like sometimes it'll take 4 or 5 takes, or I might get like one bit and I go, okay, well, there's a verse, and it's like, okay, well, I need another one of them, and then I sort of put that in, and then I go, okay, then this is another bit here, but I always keep that first take, and even it's sort of every now and then I get the whole thing out in one thing. And I don't even know what's happened until I get to the end of it, and I go back and listen and go,
That
I go-
work? And does
I
it
go,
normally
"That
work?
That work?" No, not always.
Okay, yeah.
Definitely not always. But and when I write my own stuff, it's kind of like hearing stuff in. Yeah, it's like dreaming it. I hear stuff, and then I'm like, oh, that's actually cool. And I reach my phone and I do a little demo of it. I just sort of record like the drums or whatever it is, the thing that sort of stands out the most, and sort of capture the melody. And
How many of those are in your phone?
About 1,000.
do you go back through them? Or?
Yeah, I do. I try and go back through them, and I try and there's a couple of things I look for. If it goes for more than 2.5 minutes, then there's like a fair bit of an idea there.
Yeah, okay.
So sometimes I'll just be playing a chord or a riff, and then it'll just be like it's almost like looking for what's already there. Like I said, just get out of the way. Like let the idea come through, and don't think about it, and don't try and control it, and don't judge it, and just really just let it. Just get out of the fucking way.
For sure.
Just like let it come through. And so I'll do that, and sometimes it'll just be like phonetics. It'll just be, and I won't be singing words. But sometimes it comes through as fully formed songs and fully formed lyrics. And for a while there, I was dreaming songs, and it was always Robert Smith from The Cure singing them.
Was it really? Oh, great.
And like there was a couple of years there where it was always I'd hear Robert Smith doing it, and then it was like I'd heard it on a radio. And I'd listen, and I'd be I could hear the whole thing, and I could remember how it all went, and the synth sounds, and all the sounds that were there. And then I'd be like, actually, no, that's not a Cure song. Like I think that I just dreamt a song. And then I'd go and grab it and try to capture it.
Could you get it out?
Yeah, usually I usually have a recording device of some kind, with close by. And usually it's just trying not to wake someone up that's next to me, or my kids, or
sure.
So just so then just trying to capture this kind of little bit of imagination that's sort of gone for a walk. And
was it a young Robert Smith or an older Robert Smith?
I think it was like Disintegration kind of Robert Smith.
Yeah.
The tortured kind of
prime synthy,
massively popular. But massively, I've got all this money and I'm miserable. Kind of Robert Smith.
They were such a poppy band, the goth thing. There's a thing about them. When you listen to hits, they were just he just wrote wonderful pop songs when he wanted to.
They're
perfect pop songs.
It's like, how many hooky riffs can you possibly fit into like that Spider-Man song?
Yeah.
Dong, 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 dong,
absolutely.
dong, 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 dong.
Well, the boys don't cry chords, Oh, shit, yeah.
And then just the way he layers all those little melodies together.
Yeah, it is perfect, isn't it?
Bass line, doo-doo, doo-doo-doo-doo, doo-doo, doo-doo-doo-doo, doo-doo. It's just...
It's wonderful, isn't it? And his solos, single string solos.
Yep.
But you couldn't play anything else. Like, you put Eddie Van Halen in that band, he would suck. It's horses for courses, man. Like, no one else can be in the Cure apart from those.
He just had a formula that I think he just, it's just a bit of a creative genius. I think he just...
I've watched it. There's it's just come up on YouTube. It's like my three favourite. I can't differentiate. There's live videos. Stop Making Sense. Song remains the same, although how live is that? I'm not sure. And The Cure in Orange, man. Before they got massive, they're playing in France in this big castle. And the crowd is just going ape shit. Like it's, I think it's like an afternoon concert. And The Cure in Orange. Check it out. The sound's perfect, man.
Oh, okay.
It must be after Head on the Door just came out or something. And and the crowd is going off. Like as the concerts I remembered in the 90s, but people didn't have phones and shit like that, And they were good times.
Yeah, I'd have to check that out. But that's that album Disintegration. It's like so miserable, but it's so beautiful at the same time. It's really good. What's next on your vinyl collection? Have you got like a list of vinyl that you want to collect?
In my head, and then I go to a vinyl shop and it all goes out the window and I got no idea what I want, man. I think probably, I know it's ridiculous, but I don't have Dark Side of the Moon on vinyl.
That's the most collected record.
And it's still like $90 or some shit,
even for recent releases.
Yeah.
I want to get Chaka Khan and
Rufus.
Rufus. They've got that album, the one that's got "Tell Me Something Good." That's such a funky record.
It's a great, yeah.
I've been listening to that on iTunes. I was like, yeah, no, I want to own that one.
I've got it on. I've got the live Shaka Khan and Rufus.
Oh wow!
I think it might have it, but it's not the one you kind of want. Shaka Khan, what a voice though, man.
Oh yeah,
it's just fucking amazing, you know.
Mm-hmm. The ones I've got. I discovered Discogs recently, which is this app.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Where you can like catalog all your albums, and you can buy and sell records.
Yeah.
But I started cataloguing and I alphabetized my whole collection. I've kind of put up like I've catalogued like 250 records.
Yeah.
But it's also like something that I've been investing in records. I bought the new Kid Leroy vinyl.
Okay, don't know. Yeah.
It's like new. He's like number one all around the world at the moment. He's from Cronulla, 17-year-old kid from Cronulla.
Oh shit, really?
Yeah, and it's like. He's massive, like he's just gone massive, and I bought the vinyl.
What type of music?
It's kind of modern. It's kind of a bit kind of rappy R&B kind of vocoder on the voice. He's got this definite style. It's got this kind of roughness to it, which is also like it's really modern. You'd know it if you'd heard it. Like you would have already heard it on mainstream radio. And the few songs I heard, I was just like, it's okay, but I also can just see that this kid's going to be massive. Like it's huge. So I was like, I'm going to buy his record because I reckon he's going to be good. It's like buying stocks.
Yeah, that's right.
I reckon that thing is going to be worth hundreds of bucks, and it was like $40 or something for the record. That's going to be worth like $500 in a couple of years' time.
Fucking A, it's good.
If he doesn't top himself, he doesn't top himself.
Well, even if he does, it might be worth more.
Yeah, that's that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, we want that.
But I've been collecting vinyl like that.
Last one I got was Sleaford Mods, their latest one, which is fucking rocking, man. You know, do you know them?
No, I don't.
Oh man, dudes in their 50s from some shit old little town in England.
Yeah,
and it's this guy, and his last job is working killing chickens or something, you know, and he just used to do poetry and stuff like that, and then he does this like English Essex kind of rap thing, but just the anger at these shit fucking jobs and the shit fucking country and all this, and then his mate who does the beats, they actually played at the what's that gig they do in Wollongong there? They played.
I love them.
Fuck man, and the guy is actually he's a poet, man. They're like he's fucking good with this funny accent. Every second word's fuck, but in between it's really good. And
that's a very good.
And old mate, like so they're up on stage. There's only two of them. And his friend that does the beats, man, he just destroys all other DJs because you know everyone stands there pretending to do something, pressing buttons, and it's just on the fucking iPhone. Well, he gets up there, has a big beer, and then he just presses play on the computer and just stands there and drinks his beer while his mate's going off. And then he moves it along, presses play again, you know. And it works. It wouldn't be as good without him there. You know? Yeah, check him out, man. And the record's awesome. They've put out actually. There's a Melbourne band I've been. Who put out a killer record recently? Was it Amel and the Nitrates? Or what?
Oh yeah, I know. I've heard of them before.
A fucking hardcore punk chick, man. It's great. It's really angry, awesome stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I'll probably that'll be the next one, I think.
Ah, cool.
Amel and the Sniffers.
Yeah, okay. Amel and the Sniffers. All right, I'll check it out for sure. No, it's been a hobby that's got out of control a little bit.
How many you got? 250?
Oh, that's catalogued. I've got heaps more. I got out the South Pacific soundtrack the other day. Actually, that was awesome. There's a song on that called "Happy Talk" that I'm just like, I heard when I was about 7 years old, and I haven't heard it since.
Yeah,
and I'm it's just I got a mate that's actually a really good DJ. We've had a couple of like vinyl nights together where he's sort of DJ for me.
Yeah.
And he's brought vinyl into my place and played, and it's like, it's great watching someone. I learned so much just from watching him close up and just
using two decks.
Yeah, I've got two decks set up in my lounge room.
Yeah,
and I don't beat mix. I'm shit at beat mixing, but I can. But it's like I just like playing like.
Just play the song, then play another song.
You don't have to beat mix to be a DJ. It's like
no.
I just like playing music that's fun. You can dance to, or just listening to records. You know, like just listening to old Rolling Stones or listening to old Bob Dylan.
Oh, for sure. That little crackle. I used to do wedding gigs with the two vinyls and all that, but they'd always come up and ask for, you know, Barbie Girl or some shit like that. And so I had to have I had a phone or that, so I'd line out. So I had two decks, and I'd be playing some cool stuff, and then I'd go into my phone. And I remember some dude came up he was really cool, you know. He'd had a few drinks and that, and he said, "Oh yeah, you can tell the difference." And I could hear the difference. So you got the
Yeah.
vinyl's really nice and mellow, and as soon as you put the phone in, the tone of it, the timbre, just. And it turns out this geezer was he was part of the original MP3 crew that invented the MP3 in New York.
No way.
He was one of the engineers that built it, and he was telling me all about this shit.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really cool. But that was a major issue. So whenever I went to go into the iPhone or whatever, I had to turn all the trebles down and everything and try and match it. But everyone's pissed by then anyway, you know. So
Yeah, the chick that asked for Barbie Girl's not going to care.
yeah, go to care.
She's not going to know the difference.
No matter
the
how
guy
good-
that made MP3s is
he knew the difference.
He's going to know the difference between like a real sound wave and an MP3 representation.
So
of a sound wave.
I thought DJing would be easy, but like
It's not.
those weddings, man, they were so stressful. And if you fuck it up, especially you got the wedding walk down the aisle thing and it
Yeah.
starts skipping.
Yeah.
Yeah, they should invent something better than vinyl, really, so it doesn't skip.
Yeah, you got to have good decks and have good
Yeah.
styluses. I did luck it on getting a really nice set of decks. I don't know, they probably got stolen from someone. I got them on eBay, but they've been the best investment I made because I did have that. Well, I was DJing. I got asked to DJ, and I was like, sure.
Yeah.
I'll be like, that'll be $3 million. And they're like, yeah, sure. Okay. And I turned up with like my ghetto blaster from when I was a kid with this. It had one CD player in it,
Yeah.
a laptop, and a record player, my dad's record player. And I lost the gig because this one night the record player just clapped out and just went right across, right where the dance floor was packed, and I was like, and just lost it, and then had to go. I just lost it, and I lost the gig, and I lost the dance floor. But then I went out and bought good decks, and best investment of mine.
I couldn't believe how much they were willing to pay for, you know, like I used to do like acoustic gigs and all that, and I'd get $500, you know, for an hour, a couple of hours or something. Like they were paying thousands for a beat, and I'm like, you're going to pay me thousands of dollars to pretend to do fucking something, you know, like. Obviously there is a skill to it, but it takes thousands of hours to fucking sing and play guitar. It's a you know.
I totally agree. I get paid more to do DJ gigs than I get paid to do cover gigs.
Yeah.
Admittedly under an alias, but you know, it's like that does seem kind of weird. But at the same time, the gear is still hard to get, and it is actually a fairly specific skill.
Yeah.
And it's a hard. Well,
vinyl's expensive as well, you know. And if you're going to do weddings, you've got to get Barbie Girl on vinyl.
No.
You know, you just.
I send my record list through. I send my record list of
Yeah.
what I've got. This is what I've got. I've only got vinyl. And when people come up and ask for requests, I'm like, I'm sorry, I only have vinyl.
Yeah.
It's like I could plug my phone in, but you don't know that. And
don't do that.
And I don't have any music after 1993. Sorry,
That's right.
it's all before then.
We got some
except for
KLF
Kid
for you.
Leroy, but I haven't taken that out of the packet yet. It's still mint.
Don't take it out of the packet. No. Yeah.
I haven't actually played it. I feel that something about that just feels wrong. It's just like, does that mean I've grown up? That I've like bought an album and I'm not playing it?
Yeah.
What's happened to me? It's like buying a guitar and not playing
But you
it.
don't know what colour the vinyl is. It might be that cool see-through vinyl or something.
Yeah, I
as
think
well.
it might be. Elbow, that's another one of my favourite bands. Do you know Elbow?
I do know Elbow. I might have
they've
an
been
album
around for
of theirs.
years.
Yeah.
They're like, I really love them. I've just bought their new vinyl actually for the new record.
They got a new album out.
Yeah, they just put one out recently. I think it
Were
comes out
they
in
like
November.
Pavement or something? And you know how your head compartmentalises something? I do know Elbow, but I'm not sure where to put them.
Manchester band.
Yeah.
They've been around for a while. They've never had like a top 40 hit, but their albums are just beautiful, like beautifully produced, really great.
That sounds great.
Really well written songs, and really kind of like nonchalant as well. Like they're sort of like, they're not at all posy. They're actually just really beautifully written songs by this guy. It sounds like he smokes like 50 cigarettes a day and sings songs about his town where he's from, and everyone knows I'm an asshole, but they don't mind. Kind of.
Yeah.
It's he's just a great sort of lack of ego to it. And the other artist that I really like that I've got a couple of his records too is Fink.
Oh, I don't know.
Fink's British. He's an acoustic, but it's like he was a DJ. He was and he started writing stuff on acoustic, but it's got this dub influence. So it's acoustic,
primo,
but it's really atmospheric and really interesting songwriting, but has this really dark thing. But then it has this really like this kind of pumping beat under it, but it's really mellow at the same time.
Yeah.
It's really interesting and it's really great.
Oh, I'm definitely going to check that out.
Yeah, he's been one of my favourites for a while now.
Yep.
And both of these bands are ones that when I was touring heaps, I saw them on Rage after coming back after a gig and went, Rage is the one thing that they haven't fucked up.
Yes.
Rage is still awesome.
Rage is still going all right.
New Music Fridays and Saturdays guest programmers, and then they just play awesome shit. Rage is what Triple J was like when it was just insane.
Yeah, I have to. Yeah, it could be like that again. Rage is what it's like.
Rage is still
Rage is those things
awesome.
where you've
Thank God
fallen asleep in front of the TV and it's still going, and then something just wakes you up, and it's like I discovered the Go Team. Like, do you remember that? They were fucking amazing. Like, where did this track come from? I discovered lots of bands through Rage.
Yeah, me too.
In front of the TV.
I've found lots of bands through Rage too. Those two actually I found through Rage, and yes, we can. Triple J has definitely changed, whether it's for the better or for worse. You know, everyone's going to have a different opinion on that, but thank fuck for Rage.
Thank fuck for Rage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't change Rage.
Don't change.
Hopefully. Having said that, though, I think it's been a long time since I've watched it. Since I've come home from a gig and had to sneak in because the kids are asleep.
Oh, man.
Haven't turned on Rage.
Yeah, well, hopefully that all comes back soon. So how are the gigs going now? You got a few lined up?
I'm playing a gig tomorrow night at Warragee Sports Club with my mate Red.
Red.
Red and Green. We've got a band. We do a covers thing called Red and Green, and I play baritone guitar mostly.
Oh,
and he does percussion. And then we do like fucked up versions of 80s songs the rule is I have to play at least a set or at least a few songs I've never played before. And I always try
That's a great idea.
I always try and throw something like I'll throw in like a Def Leppard cover or
Rick Astley.
I reckon that's a good suggestion.
It is. People love it. They don't know they love it.
Yeah.
The original Virus, man.
Never gonna give you
That's
love.
it, man.
And I'll try and mimic his voice if I can too.
Yeah, well, we were talking about that before, weren't we?
We've known each other. I probably could do it actually.
That sounded pretty good to me. Yeah.
Your heart's been aching, but you're too shy to say.
That's perfect. Red's going to love that.
Oh, see, that's been like mainstream media has just implanted that in my brain, and I should have been listening to Bob Dylan, and I've got that in my head.
Oh, yeah.
But I've only learnt like half a dozen Bob Dylan songs. Anyway,
he's got a lot of lyrics, man.
Yeah,
I learnt like a Rolling Stone, and I always get lost around the ambassador on a motorbike with a cat or some shit. Like, it's fucking. How are you supposed to remember that shit?
Have you ever read his book, Tarantula?
No, I don't think I have. No.
He's got this. He read a book. I found it in an op shop in England actually, and I remember reading it. I was just like going. I was just like, this doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't. Like I was like, and then anyway, and then one day I think I'd. And then was reading and I was like, and now it makes sense. It was one of those books. It was designed to read when you're.
Okay. Was it linear? It was telling stories, or was it like little poems or something?
It was like no, just random abstract thoughts. But when you were, it all kind of made sense. But when you weren't, it was just like
all seemed to.
What?
Yeah.
I mean, it seemed really disjointed when you weren't.
I do like, when you go through Bob Dylan's lyrics, some of them just sound so poetic and so lovely. There is a but there. But then I compare him to Leonard Cohen, and Dylan would write like 10 songs in a day and Cohen would write one song every 6 months. But when you compare them, you can kind of tell, I just think, I don't know. Like I love Bob Dylan. I do some of his songs and stuff, but when it comes to lyrics, I'll go Cohen over Dylan, which a lot of people might hate. Sorry, don't hate me. But,
no, that's okay.
Dylan wrote a lot about, he pretended, when he first came out, he pretended that he was a homeless guy on a train and all that. And we all start with pretension. But
and he pretended he couldn't sing too.
He's still doing that, evidently.
Well, apparently he can't now.
Yeah.
But I really like Bob Dylan's later stuff. Like, I actually really like Modern Times is a great record. Oh Mercy, which was like one of his 80s records. Yeah,
that was Dandelion Wild, wasn't it, man?
That's a great album. And the one he did recently too was all right. He did this Christmas album. That was fucking revolting. But
did he really like a Mariah Carey thing?
He did a Christmas album.
Leave that shit alone.
Really creepy because he's singing like this and the bells are ringing for Christmas.
And it was horrible.
That sounds just like him, though.
Yeah.
A little bit. But I did love when I went and saw him in concert.
Was that here?
It was the one that had the waifs and Ani DeFranco supporting Bob Dylan, and when Bob Dylan came out, they said, "Introducing the man who revolutionized the music industry with his songs like Rolling Stone," and then in the 70s, 60s, and 70s, and then disappearing into a drug haze obscurity in the 80s. Now back with his new album Modern Times, and there was this whole ramble. Like someone was there singing it and saying it. I don't know who it was. Maybe it was
Wow.
pre-recorded. And it was when he just got the Grammy. He just got a Grammy for something he'd done, and he had the Grammy with him on stage on his
Did he
guitar.
really? He was
I
stoked
was
with
saying
it.
that, and I was just like, "That he's actually really cool. Like that guy, he's funny. Like he's actually taking the piss.
Yeah.
He's kind of constructed this whole character, and he's like, maybe part of it's true, maybe it's not. I don't know, but the fact that I can't quite tell if he's taking the piss or not is awesome.
Yeah.
I like it. I like to think he's taking the piss.
I like this.
Makes me like him more.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people would like to think he's taking a piss.
Maybe he's not. Sorry, Bob.
Yeah, a mate of mine opened for him a few times, and he wasn't even allowed to look him in the eye. You know?
Yeah,
Like,
that's
it
Ani
was-
DeFranco said that too. That she didn't. She was like, he wouldn't speak to them or even look at them. And then one day, his mind came and said, "Mr. Dillon would like to see you now." And she was like, "You know what? Tell Mr. Dillon to get fucked."
Good on her. Jill told exactly the same story, and she
Yeah.
went to Mr. Dillon. You know,
Yeah,
it was like,
I think she did end up going to Ani DeFranco. She was a real hero of mine, actually.
yeah, I
too.
liked her as well. Man.
She's
She
the
was
one that
cool.
introduced me to like that power of independence, of it not being, this statement of independent music, of doing it yourself,
Yeah.
of creating a community, of it being making it more real as well.
Yeah.
Like less hype and less kind of producty and more like poetry and more sort of sincere in a way, because like it or hate it, it was what she wanted to do, and that
Yeah,
I really
yeah.
loved. I loved that about her music, and that was something I tried to adopt as well, of it being like not being bullshit, of it actually being real,
Yeah.
because it's easy to sort of be in character.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I think a lot
yeah.
of people do that, and a lot of people.
Well, just in general. Yeah. Like, I was even seeing that. I don't know what you think about your daughters. I was talking to my daughter about it, and a lot of her friends, man. She's saying, I don't want to get in shit, but her friends aren't going to watch this anyway. But she'll go to parties and all that, and then it's like everyone's acting like they've seen in the movies. Oh, this is the greatest party of all time, and everyone, like it's all
Yeah.
really over the fucking top.
Playing the roles, that
playing
they
the
think they
roles.
should be playing.
Which I suppose as a teenager, I played Slash, I thought I'll be this guy.
Yeah.
So I suppose we all did it.
Do you know who I played? I played Colin Bloxham from Spy vs. Spy.
Oh, did you?
He had no shoulders, and I used to have his guitar really low. And because I love Spies and Midnight, they were my two favourite bands when I was about
Yeah.
sort of 13, 14. And I'm now really good mates with Blocks. We talk on. We've met a few times, and we talk a lot on the socials, because I ended up singing for Spy vs. Spy for a couple
Oh,
of
did
years.
you? Okay.
I toured
yeah.
with them for like 7 years. Toured Brazil twice with them.
Wow.
It was like that was.
They're
cool.
big in Brazil.
They are huge in Brazil.
Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
I played a massive gig in Rio to there's 5,000 people or something. It was
Wow.
must one of the biggest gigs I've ever done. So I didn't sleep for days after that. It was just like
Just buzzing.
yeah, it was interesting. But that was interesting too, because I was in character. That one I was acting like I knew that Blocks didn't talk on stage.
Yeah.
So I didn't talk on stage. And I emulated his voice, and I sang the songs exactly the way he sang them.
Yeah.
It wasn't me. I was actually I loved the band and I loved the songs, and I really respected the music that they'd made, and I just wanted to be true to what they'd
Yeah,
done,
for sure. Yep.
not make it about me. And we ended up recording a bunch of songs with Mike. So we ended up doing 4 new songs, and a bunch of, we re-recorded some old Spies songs with Mike. And then Mike passed away from prostate cancer about
shit.
3 years ago
Yeah.
now, and so that was kind of the end of that. I'd actually left the band about a year before that Mike passed away. And I was just
They were touring regularly before then?
yeah, they were playing. I went and saw them play at the Culburra Bowling Club, and I was horrified. I was like, oh my god, is this Spy versus Spy now? It was like,
Yeah.
it was only Mike was the only original member, and he'd sort of put his own thing together in it. And I've got to say, when I first saw it, it was horrible. I was horrifying being a Spies fan, and they, for some reason, they rang me up and said, hey, do you want to? Their singer had left. They had Dave Wilkins was singing for them, and he'd left, and the manager called me and asked. He got my number off Rob Hurst and said, "Can you come and try out with the Spies?" I was like,
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, I already knew all the songs and everything. And, that was a really great experience. And Neil Beaver, who played bass for Spies, played with my band, and he was like the other colours. Him and Ellie on drums and him on bass. That was sort of the other colours. He was it, and me and Beaver were inseparable for about 10 years. I was doing Spies gigs, or he was doing gigs with me, and we did some good miles together, Beaver and I.
Yeah.
Me and Neil, yeah. And he's a great musician, just about to become a dad. Congratulations, Neil.
Oh, good on him. What a big journey.
Yeah, we all have big journeys, don't we? Well, hopefully we do.
Oh, everyone does, isn't it? You know,
That's the thing, isn't it? Everyone's got a story. Everyone's got something that they've been through, and everyone's sort of like recovering from something too. I think
it seems to be. There's some. Yeah. Strange.
Yeah, just life. Just life. It's, you don't learn anything from the easy bits, do you?
No.
Yeah, it's the curveballs that make you who you are, I reckon.
And Wim Hof. You do any Wim Hof?
What's that?
You know, the ice baths and the breathing. You haven't done Wim Hof yet. Oh man! Well,
ice baths and breathing sounds.
Yeah, wake up in the morning, man. 30 hardcore breaths.
30 hardcore breaths.
30 big deep breaths, then press ups, then straight into a cold shower. If it's not cold enough, throw some ice on you, man. It's a hell of a way to start the day. And it fucking works.
Wake you up.
It wakes you up, man. My blood pressure was through the roof. They wanted to put me on all these pills and all that.
Yeah.
It's perfect now, man.
Sorted you out?
Yeah, sorted me out. Yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if blood pressure goes up, I'll be giving you a call and getting some further instructions. Although I think I've got, is that all I need to know? 30 deep breaths, push-ups, cold shower.
Pretty much it, man. Although he does have a really soothing voice. The Iceman. Check him out.
Okay.
Yeah. Just power in the cold. Yeah, apart from that, it's all good. We're all going well.
Sweet.
Paul, do you want to play us a song? Play us out with a song. You feel up for it?
Yeah, sure. If you,
I just want to know what's in that bloody case there, man.
I'm your guest, so you're my host. So it would be my pleasure to play for you.
It's going to be something amazing.
Can I borrow a guitar pick, though? Have you got one lying around?
Yeah, man. Do you want a soft one or a hard one?
Oh, I'll go a soft one.
Oh, I thought you would.
Can I have a soft one, please, darling? Right. What's that?
I'm going to jump over here.
Oh, maybe there's one in there.
The sounds like there is. That can be your percussion. I think this thing should be all right to get both.
Yeah, that's all right.
Give me 1 second, man.
This is the only 12 string I've ever had that stays in tune. It's incredible. Sounds good.
Yeah, I can try a million ways to change for you. Hey, we both know that it'll never be enough. It'll not be a waste of words for you to tell me exactly what you want. Cause I used to ask myself if I can go. Now I just know I can go far enough. To believe it. We all hear about a million versions of the truth, and I have trouble thinking that I can speak out loud anytime. And no matter what you think, you know it's easier to forget yourself. See one until you can stop believing someone else.
Yeah. Was I supposed to keep playing? Yeah, because everybody knows. I was up to the second verse. I can keep going. I wasn't sure.
Keep going.
Well, everybody knows the end of the road is always gonna be looming up ahead. Yeah, but you're a fool if you sit around spending your whole damn life just waiting for red. Try just giving a little bit of love and watch everything in your way start to disappear. Whoa, 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 yeah. And I don't care whether or not you decide to believe it. Y'all hear about a million versions of that truth. And I have trouble thinking that I can speak out loud anytime. And no matter what you think you know, it's easier to forget yourself. Sing it one out till you stop blaming someone else. And if you don't pull the string, once you find that you're falling, the rubber band's gonna come around to you soon enough. Thanks.
That was great, man.
I thought it was a sound check.
Oh, do you want to do another one?
If you want.
Yeah, that was great. I'm having a beer. So this is also like my. That's
Give me
not
one.
mine. I'd love to have another, man.
Give me one.
Do you want one as well?
Okay.
Man, that 12 string sounded great.
Oh, this is a magic 12 string. This one. It's just, I've just had it repaired too. The saddle came off from Robin Moyes down in Nowra. Is a really great luthier, and he fixed it for me.
How old is she?
Oh, she's an 86.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, she's been through the ringer. Like she's got a big split down the side. And
Yeah.
the end bit got smashed in. But
She's had a
I just
life.
pull it out of the case and it's still in tune. And 12 strings just don't do
That's
that.
what I just don't do 12 strings, man, because I just can't tune the fucking things, you know? Like, you're lucky you got a good one.
What to play for you, Val? That's the next thing.
It's always the way.
Now what? Now I'm on the spot. I should play a new one, shouldn't I?
Yeah, it went from the new album.
Oh, that's just it. This is one of those songs I wrote the bass line first, and then I've had to put the rest of the songs. The bass line goes. Not a time. Think of my name. You look fine, but we got nothing to say. And I can tell you one thing for sure, is I got more than you can take. You got a mean disposition, did you let someone take your heart away? Making love to you, darling, that way to make my day. But first we need just a little connection. Let me bring you my love. 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 Yeah, yeah. Now I say love, I don't just mean sex. And anybody can do that. I'm looking for more than just this. Cause the thing with love is that you gotta receive it before you can get it.
and before you can give it, you got a mean disposition. Did you let someone take your heart away? Making love to you, darling, that would make my day. But first we need just a little connection. So let me bring you my love. 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 Yeah. Let me bring you my love. 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 Baby, bring you my love. Bring you my love. Bring you my love. Bring you my love. Let me 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 bring you my love. Let me